Welcome everyone to Monday Night Conscious Community Class with me, Matthew Brownstein. It's June 15th, 2020, and tonight's topic is past life regression therapy. Yet, I'm going to put more emphasis on the theories of past lives and karma in relationship to the self-realization or the enlightenment process. Because, I'm just going to jump right in, because this topic, I believe, is wonderful that it's in hypnotherapy. It inspires spiritual discussions and exploration of who you are. Yet, it can also be misused in some way, not necessarily in an unethical way, but I personally believe it can lead people not away from the highest realizations that the great mystics and saints and sages have worked to teach us. Right? The deep spiritual traditions have something they're offering. And I'm a real big fan of focus on the highest, focus. If you want to get to the top of the mountain, focus on the top of the mountain. You'll pass whatever you need to on the way. I would say the past life regression themes are on the way. And I'll talk about why I'm saying that throughout the whole class pretty much. I would rather, because then I do, in our school and the Sunday night class, I'll let everybody know. I said it before we started, but now that we're recording, onlinemonastery.com is a major part of my life's work, the Anahat teachings, the Anahat meditation system. And that's not, it's, I want to say completely designed for the enlightenment process, although it is. It also does a whole lot more as far as helping you to be very whole and complete. So because enlightenment is the highest priority, when I was saying past life regression could be misused, it's not really misused, again, in a negative way, yet in a way that might lead someone away from the deepest realizations. And not that we could really delay, we can't not have you get there, because eventually everybody gets there, but you can postpone it, you can delay it, you can, there's basically traps in the path of spirituality, right, where a book on that, in case you're interested, is Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism by Chung-Yung Trungpa. I'm sure you can find it. Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. If you're interested in just learning, and it's like one source of a few, about helping not to develop spiritual ego, or in A Course in Miracles is a really good explanation about reincarnation. And the question is asked in the Manual for Teachers in A Course in Miracles, is reincarnation so? And what it talks about is what can happen when you're too into past lives. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I'm going to get into it tonight. I'm just offering this first thought. When you get too into looking at the past, you can end up with preoccupation or even pride in the past. Those are the exact words. Preoccupation and pride. Those would be traps on the spiritual path. Again, not that you wouldn't eventually reach where the path is helping you to go, but the question would be, so here's like the real essence of what we're talking about to get into tonight's class. For me, spirituality has always been based on the question, who am I? And who are you, right? That's what we ask. And we'll look at that tonight. I'm going to show you a chart that deals with the theory of transmigration, which students in our school would have seen, those who've been through our transpersonal training. And you start to see there's a, well, let's open it up for a moment. I got some feedback to not only show the imagery, but to keep me full screen. So we'll do that. But let me give you this to get us started. This comes from a book by a great saint, like just of the highest caliber, named Meher Baba, M-E-H-E-R. Baba means compassionate father. Without going into him, who's worthy of a whole class for sure, in his book, God Speaks, which is a very thick, dense read, but really wonderful. Even if you don't read the whole thing, once you grasp, which is essentially what we're looking at here, once you grasp the essence of the teaching, then there's just certain principles that are very powerful to understand. For me, this helps us to understand the evolution, like the whole concept of evolution from a scientific perspective, but also the concept of creationism. Like, is there God, and did God create something? Is the conflict of, when I was in college, this is when I first came across this because I was a religion philosophy major, and I discovered this teaching, and it was a huge aha moment of, wow, that explains creationism and evolution, and they're not contradictory theories, although the traditional religious version of creationism can certainly contradict science, obviously. But the deeper understandings, the metaphysical understandings of creation is no, there is God and God does create. And then this helps us to understand evolution. The reason I brought up the chart for now, and then we'll go back to full screen for a bit, or we won't, we'll see how this goes. Right here, this guy who's on his knees, looking up towards the heavens, he's at a point where he's saying, who am I? What's going on here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Like, what's happening? I'm here spinning around a big fireball in the middle of space. I mean, think about it, like right now, look out your window if you can. You're spinning around an ginormous, it's not just a fireball, right? But this huge, huge star. You're spinning around a star. There's billions of them up in the sky, you know, billions and billions and billions of them, and you're spinning around one of them. How did that happen? How did you get here? Who are you? You're an amnesia victim, right? It's like you drop down here. You don't know where you came from. You don't know where you're going. And to me, spirituality, I'll keep this on here for a sec, and then I'll go back to full screen. To me, spirituality is exactly that, is asking that question, who am I? And what's implied there is that you're spirit, that you're not a body. And that's why there's this existential crisis when the guy's there on his knees, because he's, you know, if you want to work with this model, and we're going to call it a model, I'm not saying it's absolute truth. It's just one way to understand what's going on. And there are scientific principles that, you know, really help here to say, no, it's not just, it's not just a theory. But anyway, in this model, the guy on his knees has gone through that entire journey from source, where everybody starts. And the idea is you start moving through time and space, evolving. I'm going to explain this thoroughly tonight. And eventually, and we'll talk about the word reincarnation tonight, you get to this point here where you're saying, what's going on? And technically, you know, in just the physical universe Big Bang Theory, this has been going on for what, about 13.8 billion years. Technically, when you get to that point of saying, what's going on? Who am I? Where did I come from? The self-conscious human being who can ask that question. It's at that moment that the spiritual journey begins, but it may have taken 13.8 billion years to get to that point. That's the transmigration model that we're going to utilize tonight in understanding what's going on. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to stop sharing and not leave that up there the whole time, just because I got feedback about that. Let me talk to you for a little bit. And then let's start from the beginning. I just want to establish those principles to get started. So a lot of you, of course, are interested in past life regression therapy. That's tonight's topic. We know it's a big part of hypnotherapy now, including life between life regression as well. Got a nice turnout, so I know people are interested in the topic. In fact, to be honest, our marketing team gave me a list of topics people are searching for, and past life regression therapy was there. So I've done classes on it before for the Monday night class. Yet I'm happy to offer it again. And just a hint for our graduates, people do search, or students who are going through the training or prospective students, it's good to know people do Google searches for past life regression therapy. They want to experience these regressions, which just financially speaking says there's an income source there. So if your websites or whatnot don't have past life regression therapy on it, you're not marketing for those keyword terms, then people who really want to find you are not finding you. And graduates from our school have some of the best training in transpersonal hypnotherapy that I'm aware of. In fact, it's honestly the best I'm aware of. Maybe there's better, but I don't know of anything more comprehensive or complete when it comes to spiritually based hypnotherapy. I had one thought pop in my head, but I don't really mention other names. But honestly, I mention other trainings usually. So let me just say, very comprehensive, 500 total hours of training with the last 100 hours for transpersonal hypnotherapy, with a good portion of that dedicated to past life regression therapy, and then, excuse me, and then life between life regression therapy. So let me say this, when I first, I was in college, probably freshman or sophomore, and I started having my own spiritual awakenings, and then, which were happening to me. It wasn't like I was trying to make them happen. It was just something was happening that wasn't of my doing or my control even. And I started asking a lot of questions. What happened to me? What's going on? And eventually I came across, like we all do when the student is ready, the teacher comes. But I just came upon, at that time, not my most influential teachers, but people who just recommended books. And one of the books was Many Lives, Many Masters, which a lot of you know about, by Dr. Brian Weiss. And I read it, and it was fascinating. And I was like, wow, and this is before I was actually in hypnotherapy. I never actually thought about being a hypnotherapist. But when I read the book, it was all about a woman who goes to a psychiatrist, Dr. Brian Weiss. He's trying to heal her in every way possible. And like it often happens in stories of therapy, they try all the traditional stuff and they go, well, maybe we should try hypnosis. I don't remember his exact story. But he put this woman who he couldn't resolve of her anxiety issues, he put her into hypnosis, regressed her to the root cause. Now he was thinking he would just go to a present life, because that's how regression therapy works, right? We put someone into hypnosis, and quite often the way we do it is we amplify their emotions and we bridge back to the cause. That's it. We just say, and please don't practice this unless you have proper training. But at the right point, you would say to a client, I'll count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, you're going back in time to the past event that's causing these feelings. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Be there now. Hopefully none of you just regressed. And memories, when you do that properly, it's not just that one language pattern, of course, but when you do that properly in a whole protocol, again, with proper training, then memories come up. In the case with Dr. Brian Weiss, and others have experienced this, I experience this with my clients from time to time, you amplify their emotions. You never mention past lives. I'll tell you one of the stories of my first accountant, if I remember. So in Brian Weiss's situation with that woman, he regressed her back. She was such a good hypnotic subject that she didn't have memory of the sessions. And that's another topic to talk about, post-hypnotic amnesia. But she had that. So she didn't actually remember what she reported. But while she's in hypnosis, two phenomena occurred, two fascinating things. One was that she was recalling past life. She wasn't talking about a childhood. She had an entire story that was another story, right? And that's what we see in past life regression therapy. Whether you think it's real or not, we can talk about that tonight. Is it actually real memories? Is this proof of reincarnation? That's a topic. Yet, I would say, practically speaking, it's very healing either way. It's very helpful to do these regressions. It's not necessarily the highest enlightenment like I'm talking about, and I want to discuss more tonight. Yet it can be extremely helpful in anything that's beneficial, especially beneficial for waking people up to who they really are. That's awesome. So Brian Weiss, goes through. Actually, I don't remember the results, but I'm gonna assume I really remember that he healed her, and like the anxiety gets better. But generally, the reason I say that without remembering is because that's how it works. You bring them back to that memory, whether they go there spontaneously or you intentionally bring them there, and then you heal the memories to the best of your abilities. In our school, you're very well trained to heal what comes up, and then the present day issues tend to get better. Right. And once you see that, just that alone is amazing, right? We have a lot of reasons why you would do as a client, why you want to experience a past life regression therapy for yourself. So let's talk about those. Let me tell you my first story with the story I mentioned about my first accountant. Basically, she said she had some kind of pain. And I said, I'm a hypnotherapist. I can help you with that. And again, we always say medical conditions require the referral of a physician. So working on pain properly, she didn't want to do any uncovering work, just symptom relief. So we're doing hypnosis for pain management. It was very effective, but after about 5 sessions, I wasn't totally clear yet. And I was actually very new. So, when I look back telling the story now, I'm like, I've been doing hypnotherapy for over 22 years. So I'm sure it wouldn't have taken 5 sessions. I would have been more effective. But anyway, 5 sessions, we still don't have all the pain gone. So I said, well, would you like to try to find the root cause of that now? She goes, okay. This woman was Christian. This was in Massachusetts. If that helps, Berkshire County, like upper middle class, suburban, Christian. So there was no reincarnation theme, at all with our discussions. So I put her in hypnosis. I amplify the emotions associated with the pain, because quite often if you hold pain in your body, it manifests physically as, if you hold emotion in your body, it can manifest as pain. That's one way you could have pain. So we regress to the cause of the emotion, and all of a sudden she goes, and I'm like, what? It's okay. You're right. Give me a report. And she goes, there's a noose around my neck. What, like, that never, she was really disturbed. And I'm like, it's okay. Just like relax. She's like, that never happened. Like, how could that be? It's not one of my memories. And I said, it's just okay. Just, relax. Let's just run with what's coming up, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. We unfolded an entire past life story from someone who didn't believe in the stuff at all. We processed it to the best of my ability at the time, and her pain went away. Wow. Part of why, one reason I transitioned from traditional Chinese medicine, which is a big part of my life journey, into hypnotherapy, which is what I predominantly teach and practice, is because of, let me tell you this story to help you guys to understand what we're looking at tonight. In the acupuncture clinic, somebody would come in with pain, and we would usually poke them with needles. We would just stick needles in that area or in related areas where meridians would go or whatever. But you poke them with needles. And you could do massage for that. You could prescribe herbs. Herbs can help with pain to move stagnant blood and energy. There's cupping as a technique. So there's lots of techniques to use. Yet, honestly, like what I was seeing is it was going deeper. We're talking about and not just the physical body, but the energy body. I appreciated that. But we really weren't talking much about psychology. There wasn't the mental, emotional, or the spiritual aspects of things. It's in Chinese medicine, but not the way it is in psychology, psychotherapy, or hypnotherapy, where we're looking directly at the mind, like direct pointing to the mind. So, we would have people come in all the time with pain and just do those, Chinese medical principles. And I love that, no disrespect at all to Chinese medicine. Yet I saw that it had limitations, like everything, right? It has limitations depending on what it's meant to be used for. So when I was going through one of my hypnotherapy trainings, learning past life regression, we regressed a woman in class to the cause of her physical pain. She had pain in her shoulder. A past life story came up. It was processed. Again, we were students, so it was processed the best we could, but it healed it by healing the memory of the shoulder pain. So in the past life, she was shot with an arrow through the shoulder. That mental image was causing the pain. Now, we know that's how the mind works. We know the mind can cause pain in the body just from imagery. You see this in China. This is relevant to tonight's topic. You'll see this in childhood memory, or not even childhood, just present life memories. So if somebody comes into your office and they have physical pain, one option of how to work with that is you can regress them to when they had that pain or when the pain started. And there's other ways to work with that in the present life, but you could just simply state it, regress to when that pain started. And then by clearing the memory of whatever happened then, or if there's, let's say, an accident. Here's a good example. If there's a car accident and the person smacked their head, they have headaches from then on. But the doctors are saying there's no reason why you should still have headaches. There's nothing wrong with you in any way. They did all the MRIs or whatever. What happens quite often is the memory is stuck there, using fancy terms, it's stuck there in the subconscious mind. And it's in this negative loop. And it's as if you're in that trauma over and over and over again. That's kind of how the subconscious mind works, is replaying memories like little movies over and over and over again, which is why this is relevant to past life regression therapy. When you heal that memory, the pain just tends to instantly go away, and that is part of understanding miracles, like truly understanding how to perform miracles. Miracles are mental shifts. They're not physical shifts. The physical shift is the byproduct, cause and effect. So miracles are mental. They're changes that occur in the mind. So if you have one wrong thought, as if I'm smacking my head against a car dashboard over and over and over again, well, yeah, sure, but it's a wrong thought in the sense that it's not happening now, right? It's not truth, right? The only guarantee about the past is it doesn't exist, and what doesn't exist isn't true, right? Your past doesn't exist. There's no such thing except for now, right? There's this moment, and yet the subconscious mind, which is where memories, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight, that's where memories are stored. And in fact, you might argue there's not even a thing called the subconscious mind. There's just the aspect of mind where memories, beliefs, and emotions and other faculties and functions are stored. That's where that part of your being is. But it's not that it's completely out of your awareness. However, most of those memories, like 99.9999% of them, are not in your conscious awareness until you choose to retrieve them. And some of the memories, childhood and past life, are so deep that you need altered state work to get into them. But that's what we train people in how to do. We teach you how to induce altered states, hypnosis, being the main way of looking at that, of course. And then in that state, we have access to all the stuff in the subconscious mind. When you heal what's in there causing a problem, because it's mental, right, how quickly can you change your mind? Like that. So here's something to know about for this topic, and really, helping to set people free, like really setting people free. The idea is that that thought just went away. It'll come back. Yep, that went away. Okay, that was fun. We'll move on. So I'm sure that'll pop back in a sec. All right. That was weird. That just totally went away. So past life, I think I'm blushing. Past life regression therapy. We're talking about childhood regressions, healing pain, getting to the places inside where you're holding a memory. I'm getting closer to what I just lost. And the transmigration model, where we're looking back at past lives and finding out how the karma is carrying over. So let's pick it up on this point. I'm going to go right into this. What is karma in relationship to all of this? And this ties to what we're talking about. I know it is. Karma deals with memories, but more specifically belief systems. That what happens when these past events occur, you end up with a mental impression. That's called, which is relevant to the chart we'll go back to, that's called a sanskar, or it could be pronounced samskara, or samskaras, or sanskaras, but the most proper Sanskrit pronunciation would be sanskar when you say the word alone, essentially in the singular. But anyway, so sanskars. The idea of sanskars is that when consciousness, which is what you are, right, you're conscious, when you have something happen to you, it leaves a memory, it leaves an impression. Sanskars are mental impressions. We're talking about miracles. So how quickly can you change your mind? You can change your mind instantly. The miracle isn't bound by time and space. Okay, so that's kind of what I was saying in summary before. Now, when we bring up these memories with beliefs and emotions in present life or past life, they store an identity of who we think we are. Super important in the idea of sanskar. A sanskar is an imprint that helps you to, I don't want to say helps you to, but it just by default, it helps you to think you are what happened to you. All right, so let's say somebody said something really mean to you, like, oh, you're so stupid. And you accept that, a lot of kids get programmed with that stuff. You accept that as true. And then you start saying, I am stupid. So what do we have inside of a lot of these memories? Not just images of physical pain. We have memories of a lot of traumas, and not even really intense ones, but just the little things going that are formative for who we are as we move through our life. So your entire sense of self-esteem is contained in that. All right, we're looking at memory, sanskars, memories, belief systems. Beliefs, I always say these, but I'll say it again. Beliefs are things like, I'm stupid, I'm bad, I'm ugly, I'm dirty, I'm disgusting, I'm unloved, I'm unlovable, I'm abandoned, I'm betrayed, I'm not good enough, I'm incapable, I'm alone, I'm useless, I'm not valuable, I'm not important, I'm a thing to be used, I'm nothing. That's a handful. And how do I know all of those? Because I've been doing hypnotherapy for 22 plus years, whatever, and every time for all these years, like well over 20,000 hours of hypnotherapy, every time I regress someone or just look in their subconscious mind in one way or another, they're filled with all of these false beliefs. So the sanskars for a human, we're going to look at that chart very soon, are those. Now again, I remember there it is. There's a thought. It was really disturbing. All right. When we make it, I'm going to say it so I don't lose it. When you make a decision, it stays with you as such until you decide again. There it is. It wouldn't go away. It was done. When you make a decision, it stays decided until you decide again. So all those beliefs I just mentioned, in a sense, are decisions. Now, it doesn't seem like you seem like a victim to when somebody says, you're stupid, and you accept it, but you can choose again. You can say, no, I don't accept that as true. But when you accept it as true, it remains in place until you choose again. As well as other decisions that happen in any time in your history, past lives, present lives. If you decide something like, I'm never going to love again, I'm never going to let my heart be open again, I'm never going to let myself feel that kind of feeling again. Okay, however, I mean, that's not healthy, but okay. However, when you do that, it's just going to stay that way for lifetimes. But here's the thing about the miracle, which is so important. I didn't want to lose that thought. The miracle is not bound by time. Mind is not bound by time. You can change your mind at any moment. And when you do, there's a huge ripple effect, a huge cascade through your entire life when you shift a lot of these negative beliefs and therefore emotions. Your beliefs cause your emotions. So I was working to get my train of thought back a moment ago. So I started talking about transmigration. Let's look at the chart and help you to understand sanskars a little bit more. And then I'll go to the chat pod. I see something there. Okay, so here we are again looking at Mayor Baba's chart, giving him credit for this for sure. Let me explain the whole model, and then we'll start looking at very specifically what I'm talking about for sanskars, who we think we are, why past life regression therapy is so valuable when we use these type of models and that practice. And again, I'm not really going into the topic on is it real or not. I'm just saying it's an extremely practical way, practical way of working with your clients. You don't have to believe in past lives. You don't have to think every past life regression is real, but the modality is very healing, and the work itself is really fascinating. And it helps you to understand, I think it really does help you to understand what's going on in this universe. Because the theory, the idea that there are past lives starts opening your mind to stuff like this, right? Giving thought to, so here's the thing, when I first heard, not the first time, but at some point I had, we all know about evolution, right? Unless you grow up in certain states. But, everybody knows about evolution. But at some point I asked myself the question, what's evolving? Like, who's evolving? Okay, evolution, great, pretty well scientific fact now, but what's evolving? And this model helps to explain that. And again, like I said, it does go into creationism as well, but I'm not sure how much we'll get into that tonight. So here's how it works. We have this reality called God in the beyond state. So what is that? Well, in the Tao Te Ching, the Taoist Bible, or a Taoist scripture, it says, those who speak do not know, and those who know do not speak. You can't actually describe God in the beyond. I actually like the term God beyond the beyond. It just flows better. So I usually call this God beyond the beyond. It's formless, it's timeless. If you want some way to understand it, of course, because we do have to use words. In religion, the Father, Mother, God, the source. So when God said, let there be light, the beingness, the being, not like a person on a cloud, right? But the being that was there who said, let there be light, is God beyond the beyond, or God in the beyond state. Beyond what you can grasp with your intellectual mind. The mind cannot possibly use visual images or words to know it. You can know it. You can know that reality, absolutely. And that's my whole point, actually. This is how I started the class. I'm not really a huge fan of looking at your past lives, honestly, unless I can use that to help you to heal or to help you to know who you truly are, because that's the goal, right? There, in a sense, there is a goal. Is that you say, well, the journey is the goal, right? Everybody loves that idea. But if you look at this model, that is clearly the soul, I'll use the term the soul. Soul is a limiting term, but this is the soul's journey here. There's that thought again. So, all right, so moving on to this. So God beyond, okay. Okay, so I was talking about, this is happening today. So the goal, when I say there's a goal, I know in spirituality, that's a iffy, not a great word to use, there's a goal. But look at this idea, the idea of the soul's journey, that you started in gaseous forms, moved through stone, metal, vegetable, right? You kind of see that for yourself, through animal forms, eventually through human forms. And then there's this involutionary journey back into God. So the journey isn't the destination. The journey is a journey going somewhere. I hope you enjoy every moment on the journey. Yet there is a path. In Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, he says, before all these revelations came to him, when he's quoting him, he said, before all these revelations came to me, I didn't even know there was a path. At least now I know there is a path, and I'm on the path. I'm not done with the path, but at least I know I'm on the path. And I really subscribe to that there is a goal to the spiritual path, and it's worth working towards. And again, I don't want to waste anybody's time with that. So preoccupation or pride in the past, like, hey, I used to be a horse, and now you write books about how you used to be a horse. Great. But who are you really? You're not a horse. Right? And that happened 50,000 years ago. Get over yourself. So being caught up that far back obviously could be a big mistake. So let me explain the model a bit more. So basically just consider basic religious teachings. God said, let there be light. So there was God, and then there's this outpouring of light, which you kind of get represented here, beyond state of God. So I call these God beyond the beyond and God in the beyond state. but either way. So Father, Son, basically, in the Trinity model. The top here, even though there's only two circles in this image, that actually is referring to the Trinity. Well, it's Meher Baba's works are very complicated, but you could just grasp the Trinity here: Father, Son, Holy Spirit, if that helps you. So the very source of all that is in Big Bang theory, even though they haven't been able to prove or grasp at all what was there before something started banging, right? There's this singularity, this point of whatever, and then all this stuff starts pouring out of that, what we call the whole universe. Well, what is all that stuff, and what's on the other side of that singularity, right? Where did all that energy come from? This model is talking about, I believe, exactly that. And those of you who study modern science understand what's called dark energy and dark matter. That teaching, which is completely scientific, like that is absolute scientific fact now. They don't know what the stuff is, but we can measure how much stuff is there in the universe. I don't know exactly how they do that, but we can measure that there's about 4% of what we can actually touch and sense and feel, like our instruments, one way or another, can grasp. There's 4% stuff, but there's 96% other stuff. They call it dark energy and dark matter, and they're trying to give percentages to how much is dark energy, how much is dark matter. But dark just doesn't mean dark is not having color or light. They don't know, right? But they know there's the unit. So we didn't know when I was in high school, high school and college science. We didn't know if the universe was expanding and would just keep going, 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 and just burn itself out, lose all its heat, and that's it, or the gravity would pull it back in and contract on itself. Now we know scientifically the universe is not only expanding, but it's speeding up. That goes against modern, or not even modern, that goes against Newtonian physics, right? That this, well, I'm not a physicist, I shouldn't quite say that, but I think that's accurate to say that the idea, if you throw a ball, for instance, the ball after a while is going to slow down, right? Because of physics, it has resistance, it's going to slow down. But the universe is, or at least it should maintain the same speed if it's floating in empty space, right? But the universe is actually speeding up its expansion. It's going out, but it's going out faster. How could it be going out faster? Science couldn't really grasp that, but they started looking at supernovas was the way they were able to figure all this stuff out. A lot of you probably know this already. And they were able to determine some force is making the universe expand faster. And they're calling that stuff dark energy, dark matter. And of course, a lot of modern science, string theory and the new E8 theory is fascinating. But let's just say quantum physics is really helping us to understand more of what's going on, right? And this idea that consciousness is a big part of the equation. So here's what you want to grasp as we move on to a field I'm more able to speak of. But I want you to grasp what I was just saying, this idea of the universe is Big Bang speeding up, expanding out, because what's moving it, right? And who are you in the midst of all of this? Are you just the result of your body? And then when the body dies, that's the end of you? That's not what was taught, for thousands upon thousands of years. And my major in college, like my major, it was my bachelor's, but you can call it the thesis for that, was a paper I wrote, an independent study with one of my professors called They Found God's Hiding Place. And the subtitle of that was a comparative study of Eastern mysticism and modern quantum physics. So when you look at what modern science is telling us, it's, I believe, and again, I don't think all scientists believe this because it is a belief, but I believe they are confirming what we're talking about here. All right, so there's this underlying source we'll just call that God if you want, but the word God is so limiting because English just doesn't do justice to it. There's a lot of other good words in other languages that help us to understand these different levels and dimensions. So in quantum physics, in string theory and E8, that's what I was about to say, they talk about multiple dimensions, right? In string theory, there's like 11 dimensions. E8 is because there's 8 dimensions. String theory didn't really pan out, but the new E8 stuff is, you can Google that. I don't know if you can, it's just the term E8, but try. Really fascinating ways of understanding the universe and sacred geometry, actually, which is a big passion of mine. So I believe all of that is really confirming what we're looking at here, but again, that's a belief. So looking at the chart now, you have a source of all, it's conscious, and so in the beginning, so here's, if you want to understand it biblically, just to give some reference point, and there's other religions I can pull from, I'm just going to happen to pull from Judeo-Christian tradition tonight. So Moses is hanging out on the top of a mountain, Exodus chapter 3, and verse 14, that area, he says to God, like, who are you? Who are you who's burning mountain tops and giving me these 10 commandments and probably making me lose a lot of sleep, making me not all that popular with the other kids. So that's Matthew's view of the story of the Exodus and Moses. So anyway, Moses is on the top of the mountain. He says to God, who are you? And God says, and actually the word there is Yahweh. I am that which I am. That's like the biblical answer of what is God. I am. I am is conscious, right? You would never pray to God or talk to God if you believe in God, right? Without thinking that God hears you. That implies consciousness, and you are conscious. So to understand this, understand that consciousness is the philosopher Paul Tillich, he called this the underlying ground of all being. And the underlying ground of all being in Hinduism, for sure, is what's called Sat, Chit, Anand. Sat, pure existence, and that's what this is here that we're looking at. Pure existence, pure consciousness, that's Chit, C-H-I-T, not the way it might sound. And then there's another type of Chit in Sanskrit, C-H-I-T-T. So Chit on this level is consciousness, and C-H-I-T-T, Chit vrittis, are fluctuations of mind, which is also helpful to understand here. So Sat Chit Anand, pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss. So as part of grasping what is God beyond the beyond here, pure bliss, and then God in the beyond state, pure light. So you can call the God in the beyond state of God, the Christ consciousness, if that helps you. The sonship, for those of you who study Course in Miracles. But then it starts emanating out. So again, I'm being biblical on you a bit more than usual, but that helps you understand these topics that are not found in the Judeo-Christian tradition. So I believe it's the book of John, right? It starts by saying, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If I could humbly make any little change to that, I would say, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word is God, not was God. It's actively happening now. Right? It didn't Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, and then God stopped banging. God is infinite expansion, continually doing what it does right now. So there's this pure consciousness emanating out light. So there's consciousness and light, which is energy. So what I started grasping is, conscious energy. That's what's evolving. That's what the stuff is made of. When you look at, and you can study quantum physics, of course, Eastern mysticism. These books are a little outdated, I'll recommend now, but they're very influential in my college studies. One is called The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. I won't spell it for you. Fritjof Capra. Just type in The Tao of Physics if you want to read it. It's a really good book. It's, again, I studied this stuff in the early 90s, mid-90s, so there's definitely science has come a lot further. The other good book on this is called The Dancing Wu Li Masters. Both reads were really amazing. Again, comparing Eastern mysticism to modern the quantum physics of the time. But still, the science is science, right? When something is proven as fact, it's pretty well not going to change. So it's, it's pretty sound what you're looking at there. Okay, so anyway, what's happening when consciousness is expanding out now, but let's talk about it as if it happened in the past. Because in some sense, your history as a soul evolving through time and space, you have a past. Doesn't exist anymore, at least in this theory. We could talk about how it exists in other theories, but we don't have time for that tonight. So what you're looking at is that this you, whatever you are, but not individualized yet, is emanating out. So let's consider in the past, not even only 13.8 billion years ago, because if you open up to a multiverse, not just one universe, then this has been happening beyond 13.8 billion years. It's, those numbers don't mean anything. Again, it's all happening now eternally anyway. So what happens is from that light that's pouring out of source, all of the subatomic particles that will make up creation are emanating out of there. The light is creation. The beings who are of the light, the children of God, if you will, the Christ consciousness, that's creation. To bring that into the discussion. All right, so God said, let there be light. That's creation. That's what this chart is showing. And then you are part of that. You could say that's you as soul. But here's the thing with the word soul. Um, I don't want to overly complicate it, but soul is a very misleading term because it implies that there's an individual you. What actually this model shows is there is no individual you, which is what Hinduism teaches and its essence, what Buddhism teaches, is what Course in Miracles teaches, the idea of ego. And what's happening here when we start looking at this unfolding we're about to talk about, you're talking about karma. And again, I want to be sure to cover karma tonight because it's so practical to understand it to help to heal your clients and to set yourself and others free. Like literally free as much as you can mean that word. That's what we're talking about here. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work, because my marketing team has me writing the tip of the day now. And today's tip was about true freedom. I forget what I wrote, but I could try to remember. But anyway, you'll see that somewhere on social media soon. So again, let's go back and try to stay focused. So we have the idea of soul. There's not an individual soul here at this stage at all. What happens is just from all the subatomic particles emanating out of source, we have, in the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God. So what's happening at this level is vibration, light vibrating, conscious energy vibrating, sound, and geometry, but we won't go into that tonight. But those of you who know my other teachings, you don't know about the Sacred Geometry Meditation. One of my books, I'll plug it for a moment, is called The Sacred Geometry Meditation. So it's a good read. So what's emanating out of this source, basically just consider the part of subatomic particles. In Sanskrit, they're called anu, atom, and par anu, beyond the atom, meaning the subatomic particles, neutrinos, quarks, muons, all that stuff, which I don't study much at all. So you've got this outpouring of all these subatomic particles. They form what we call gas. Now, why it's so important to understand that, because we don't do hypnotherapy and gas. Some people come in with gas, but none of this is practical, except it's practical because it helps you understand what a sanskar is. And when I knew we were going to do this topic tonight, I knew all I needed was like 2 or 3 words to start. Obviously, I don't plan these classes. And the idea of transmigration and karma is really what I wanted to talk about to help you to get better at doing hypnotherapy. So here's why we're looking at gas. When consciousness emanates itself out, the part that emanates out, so the source remains the same, right? God didn't forget who God is. Yet the aspect that part of the energy, like consider the ocean. Imagine before there were ever waves, there was only the stillness of the water. And that's actually how Genesis begins, by the way, just like, the depths of all that is, just in the dark depths of the ocean. But then in Sanskrit, there's something called parinam. Parinam means change. Something changed in the one reality of God. There was just pure oneness, just I am. Yet it was so delicious it wanted to know itself. So it did the bang thing, big bang. And it said, let there be light. And the light starts emanating out as conscious energy. And eventually, like I said, the subatomic particles, eventually the gaseous form. So with the ocean metaphor analogy, you've got the idea that nothing is happening, but then when movement, parinam, or change starts, vibration starts, now you got waves. The waves are like what the gas is and the stone and the metals. Everything you're seeing, like everything, literally, just look around, are waves of energy on the ocean of consciousness, right? That God is the ocean of consciousness, and everything you're seeing are waves of rising and falling. Your body rises and falls. It comes out of the earth, it goes back into the earth. No big deal. We make such a big deal out of it. So this wave came up, this wave goes down. And in past life regression, you've had lots of those waves. You've had lots of different bodies. You haven't been any of those bodies, but you think you are, and that's the whole point of all this in the enlightenment process. So when consciousness becomes a gas, I don't want you to think all of consciousness became gas, but when that wave arose as gas, the consciousness believes itself to be gas. That's the amnesia process. Why can we do amnesia in hypnotherapy? I've had it twice tonight as I've been teaching, for whatever reason. Amnesia can happen. We talked about post-hypnotic amnesia in this class a little bit. And again, we're not going to go into it, but amnesia is forgetting something. Maybe that's why it's happening tonight to me, or I'm getting older. Amnesia is the ability to forget really anything. When gas becomes gas, it forgets who it is. So if you could ask gas, who are you? It would say, I am gas. Now, we think of gas as, I don't know, just, what's in a hot air balloon, a helium balloon. But Think about those huge cosmic gas clouds that the Hubble Space Telescope can look at. They're enormous. They call them star nurseries, right? It's so much gas that it has its own gravity. It collapses in upon itself, aspects of it does, and forms stars. That's where stars come from. Then those stars eventually explode, releasing other elements. And then all that stuff ends up on the planet, making our planet, and your body is made out of that stuff. Right? So your body is literally made out of stardust. I think we all know that, but it's a nice reminder. And again, remember, you're spinning around one of those stars right now. Like, how did you get here? So I'm not really being that metaphysical, right? There is Big Bang, and then here you are. So what's going on? And that's, again, where spiritual growth begins, when you start saying, what's going on? Or when science begins, what's going on? Okay, so the important point is, gas believes itself to be gas until it evolves into its next form. Right? When gas collapses and becomes star, then the star is creating, in that nuclear fusion process, whatever it's doing in there, it creates all the other elements, or not all, but whatever, it creates elements. The elements, so not just stone, right, but all the elements that it does in the periodic table. Those, basically, simply stated in this model, become stone. Because that's where the stones come from. That's where elements come from, out of the Big Bang, and then out of the stars. So now stones come out of that whole process. So we're just talking about what modern science knows, what the Hubble telescope shows us about what's happening in the universe. But what you want to grasp that science doesn't teach, at least what I'm encouraging you to grasp, is who's evolving, what's evolving. Conscious energy is evolving. Conscious energy, when it hangs out with a certain form, will think it is that form, just like you think you're your body, which is totally wrong, by the way. So you are consciousness, gas is consciousness. You have a body, gas has, like consciousness has gas when it's a gas. Now, how does it evolve into that next stage? Well, it just does, right? Evolution is happening for whatever reason. But to understand that more, I like to actually talk about animals. If my parents are still here, they might find this point funny. So if you look down here, these animals, we had a dog named Dusty. And one day, my mother's mother, my grandma Lil, she looked down at our dog. She was looking him in the eyes. My grandmother's a little bit deep. There were times when, she would really question the nature of things. She's probably the most spiritual of, she was really open to some of that stuff. So she looked at my dog, and our dog, and she said, "There's a person in there." It was the funniest thing I ever heard. But I knew all these teachings already. So I knew she was acknowledging that inside of Dusty is consciousness, right? Everybody was pets. Your dog and pet. And this is why personally I'm vegetarian. Is one of the reasons is because animals are conscious. They do feel. They do suffer. So, please stop hurting all those animals, everybody who's not vegetarian yet. So when you look at a dog, there's someone in there. That's the consciousness. But if you could ask that consciousness, who are you? The dog would say, woof. But, he would say, I am the dog, right? He wouldn't know himself to be anything but that. He's not enlightened to who he really is. So think about the idea of soul. You could say, well, he's a soul. But when did that individualized sense of self come about? It came about through a very long evolutionary process. It took, let's just speak in this universe, 13.8 billion years for Dusty to become the form, our golden retriever we had. For that to come about took 13.8 billion years. And that consciousness believes itself to be dog. But here's the major point about this theme we're on now. The consciousness identified with the body thinks it is that body, and all the mental impressions, all the memories. So what are its sanskars? It's memories and its identification with who it thinks it is, with the form it's associated with. Now, when the dog is hanging out, so here's the major point. When the dog is hanging out with people, he's starting to, because this dog was he, so Dusty is starting to get impressions of humans. He wants to sleep on a human bed like humans. He wants to eat human food like humans. Those of you who dress your dogs, they want to wear clothes like humans. So, and I think it's my personal belief, and this is kind of an insult to humanity, why humans are so messed up is, and evolution tells us this, you evolved out of apes. And a lot of us are still acting that way. You evolved out of animals, and I believe for a lot of dogs and cats who hang out with us, their next lifetime could very easily be a lifetime moving into human. This is not to say that humans are superior to animals or any form is superior to any other form. In fact, it'd be wonderful to be a cat or a dog, right? When you're in good situation. So the major point is when consciousness is identifying with a form, it's also aware of its environment to a degree, right? Once you get a complex nervous system, you're very aware of your environment. You can actually evolve much faster. So here, so I hope you get the whole point now. We have, if you look at this chart, the wind where the cursor is, the winding of sanskars. Winding of sanskars is the accumulation of karma. So what is karma? Karma literally is defined as action. That's the translation from Sanskrit, action. So what does that mean? How does gas have karma? How does a stone or metal or vegetable, let's keep moving along this chart here, how does stone, metal, vegetable, worm, insect, reptile, how does that have karma? Karma is not, it just means action. And I'll explain it, of course. So what's in action? What's evolving? Conscious energy is evolving. And that's its action, that's its karma. Now, every form that you're looking at has what's called in Sanskrit niyati. Niyati means law or rule, meaning like what is the law of a gas? Well, it's meant to do its helium, its hydrogen thing, whatever. It has its purpose, right? In the creation of the universe, the first element that we have, it's not my field, right, but is hydrogen, right? And then that ends up manifesting itself into helium. Each of these, the elements manifest themselves into the next element. It's exactly what's taught here in these deep metaphysics, right? So if you understand, like, how do we get from hydrogen to helium? Again, this isn't my field to explain well, but all that gas collapses in upon itself, and in the core of those stars, the other elements are being created, right? So that's karma. That's like the winding of sanskars. That's the evolution of conscious energy into form. It's consciousness here is manifesting itself into form. Yet when we talk about niyati, we're looking at the idea that everything has and this is relevant, you guys will probably like this topic, niyati is like your purpose. What's the purpose of hydrogen, the first element, right? By becoming huge gas clouds and collapsing in upon itself, it gets to create stars and the whole universe. It is a great purpose. What's the purpose of stones? Well, now that we got that, we got planets, right? And then metals, and so you kind of get the point, I think. Every form has its own niyati, its own purpose, its own reason for existence. So do you. And that's so important because most people are not really living their purpose. And that's called your dharma. Yeah, it's called your dharma. I don't know how much time we'll have to talk about dharma tonight, but it's worth a discussion eventually because the whole winding of sanskars, evolution, is basically karma, and most people are really caught up in karma. So how do we understand karma more as we get towards humans? Karma, but in the whole process here, karma are belief systems in action. Karma are your belief systems in action. Gas believes itself to be gas, it's acting as gas, it's doing the gas thing. Eventually it'll become stone. And then more and more of the gas keeps coming out, but the rest of the stuff keeps evolving as well. So, because I don't think the Big Bang just happened once and that's it. I think it's a continual process in multiple universes, in multiverse. And, so karma, when we look at winding of sanskars, is how the consciousness believes itself to be its form. Now, eventually we get to human. And so let's start talking about that a bit more. So, because that's what's really relevant here. But I really am glad I'm able to take the time to explain something that even our hypnotherapy school, I never go this in depth into, is helping people to understand what are sanskars and what is karma. And then of course, how do we resolve that in humans? So when you're winding sanskars, moving down through this evolutionary path, you will eventually forget about who you were. All memories that you were a worm, right, or an insect or a reptile here, they won't even be there. You won't be carrying that karma anymore at all. But all of these forms, it's important to understand, from gas all the way through, they're all conscious. Gas is conscious. And start thinking about it that way. Look up at the sky, look at the earth, right? Gaia, Pachamama, those of you who know the South American understanding of Mother Earth, Pachamama. That understanding of everything being conscious. So Gaia theory is that the earth is a conscious being. When I first heard that, I totally believed it was true. I don't want to say I knew it was true because it's not proven yet scientifically, but I think a lot of you would believe the Earth is conscious, and we see her tears right now. I want to cry when I say it. Like, it's sad what's happening on the planet right now. Anyway, but it's also beautiful. There's a huge awakening occurring, I believe, right now. Okay, so while sanskars are winding in these earlier forms here, I'll use the cursor to show you where my mind is. We're moving through all of these forms. Everything here is conscious. Animals are conscious, right? When my grandmother said, there's a person in there, she identified that there's consciousness in there. Now, where's the individual soul? Well, the soul is conscious, but it's not individualized yet. But as it's becoming more, horse, whatever's here, elephants, imagine elephants who have great memories, right? Who get sad when they lose their loved ones, dolphins, right? They're conscious, and you might say the soul is becoming more individualized in what in Sanskrit is called jivatma. Jivatma is the individualized essence of consciousness. Yet, it's important to understand that individualized essence is ego. All right, so do the animals have ego? Yes. Ego is who you think you are. That's all. Ego is amness. In Sanskrit, the word is ahankar. I sense, who I think I am. Does a dog think he's a dog? Yes, that's the whole point of the discussion. A cat thinks she's a cat. A giraffe thinks he's a giraffe. So they're conscious, but they're not self-conscious, which is what's so important. So then we have the movement into humans. Once you're conscious enough and you can kind of handle a human body with a complex nervous system, and you have enough sanskars to move you into that, like I think dogs and cats, horses, those animals that we domesticate are going to eventually reincarnate in or transmigrate. This whole model, by the way, is transmigration. Once we get to human, we use the term reincarnation. So transmigration is the whole journey, the evolutionary journey anyway, but even the involutionary journey, which we'll talk about a little bit. But once we get to human, we start talking about reincarnation. So all these forms are conscious, but humans are self-conscious. Why? Because we have a more complex nervous system that evolved this way. And again, I'm just pulling from evolution and transmigration theory. You don't have to believe all of this. Okay, so now you're just looking at God knows how many lifetimes as a human being. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that. So reincarnation is a more linear chronological understanding. In this model, there's other models. Actually, Mayor Baba's teachings do acknowledge something some of our graduates would know about called the oversoul theory, which we're not going to go into tonight. I have past recordings of that online conscious community class that discusses the oversoul theory. But looking at the picture here, simply stated, reincarnation so the whole model here is transmigration. And then zooming in on the human, we're using the word reincarnation, which is good because Mayor Baba does as well. Reincarnation is just consciousness going from human birth to human birth. Eventually, the sense of feeling like you're an individual soul gets very clear in the sense of ego, right? Because I am, and then we know human ego, right? Now you say, oh, cats have ego? Yeah, they're aware, and they have their little personalities. When you get to human, you're evolved enough to deal with this very complex nervous system and language and social interaction and all the things humans do, and you're self-conscious. After enough incarnations, you notice here's like this great Maharaj guy who's like a kingly person. Eventually, like, all right, I reached the top and there's nothing there. So the next lifetime, I think that's why the picture's this way. So it's like king, but then saint, because you stop wasting your time trying to chain worldly goods. And then eventually, even from the saintly life, you're just like one of us who at some point in your life is like, what's going on here? So that's kind of where we started. And I'll finish using the chart, then we'll go back to full screen and to the chat pod for discussion. And then, there's more to share. So when you're there, the picture of you on your knees, you're basically saying, who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? What's going on? That's the pinnacle of self-consciousness. And usually people who are at that stage can be really, really self-aware, anxious, nervous, because like, who am I? Like, what's going on? Excuse me. You're more aware than most people when you're at you get a cough drop. You're more aware of most people when you're at this stage. The moment you start asking, who am I? Excuse me. If you want to use Course in Miracles terms, the idea is that when you took this long journey like very long journey. A Course in Miracles actually calls it the detour into fear. Because eventually you're going to get really scared, like I was talking about when you're down here. When Adam and Eve, this is not the deepest metaphysics at all, the way I'm describing this, but when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, there was the fall. They felt guilty. They went on a long guilt trip. And you could see this entire evolutionary process as a long guilt trip. Because what happens in that feeling of separation, in A Course in Miracles, the only hell for a child of God is to feel separate from God. And when you're doing the incarnation thing, which is what we've been looking at, you feel separate from God. You also feel guilty, right? Everybody has fear and guilt, in the human experience. So in Course in Miracles, using the word God there, because the Course does use the word God, it said God knew what was going on. And so God made a plan to help you to get back home. That's called the atonement, the plan for the at-one-ment, right? Because the only problem is separation, and the only solution is oneness. And the means for the atonement is forgiveness. That's a whole nother topic. But the point is, the plan for the atonement, the way to get back, was already in place the moment you left. The moment you said, I'm going to go play to be human. God said, all right, good. You're going to forget who you are, so I'll be sure there's a way to get back home. And you're like, okay, good, thank you, because I'm going to go have some fun down there, right? Sex and pizza. I'm all in, right? So you jump in and start doing the human thing. You're a complete amnesia victim, but your source still knows you and loves you and hasn't forgotten you. And then when you say, all right, who am I? What's going on? Then the plan for the atonement for you kicks in. The principle is already there, and the means was already there. The means, again, is the forgiveness, deeply understanding that word. But anyway, what happens at this moment is your spiritual path begins. And this is why I started the training, this class, saying, I'm more interested in helping you to know who you truly are than preoccupation or pride in the past. But we're going to start talking about past life regression therapy in a moment, now that we have this model deeply in place. All right, so what's happening while we're in this involutionary journey? So first you're evolving through time and space, and then you're evolving out of time and space. You're moving through the more celestial levels of your being. Now, at some point in your life during this journey, the veils between the higher realms, which are all there, and they're right here now, the veils start dissolving, and you'll start seeing those levels, largely, through your third eye. You start having out-of-body experiences. All sorts of mystical experiences start occurring. So you don't have to have physical death of the human body to tap into the involutionary process and to experience those levels, or to be the beings who are on those levels. You are, let's say this, in this model, you're not an angel yet, right? An angel is something that is happening in that involutionary process, like kind of the person here in the fifth plane. I'm not going to explain all these planes tonight at all. We're just going to talk about past life regression therapy and freeing people from karma for the rest of the class. But what's happening here, this right here, I don't know if you can read it, says unwinding sanskars. So the involutionary journey unwinds the human karma. Yet what's really important to understand is the movement from where you are in this chart back to God beyond the beyond can happen in one lifetime. You don't have, it doesn't mean bodily death occurs. And doesn't mean you have to, go through millions of years to evolve back to your source. The moment you get to the point of being on a spiritual path and say, all right, here I am, I'm conscious. So in Richard Maurice Buck, or Buke, B-U-C-K-E, I never heard his name pronounced. Richard Maurice Buck, I'll just say, wrote a book called Cosmic Consciousness. And he explains that all the forms that have been evolving are conscious. Like I said, the human is self-conscious, but the next level of evolution, I'll use the term here, involution, is cosmic consciousness. So animals are conscious, we're self-conscious, you can become cosmically conscious. In his book, he makes a list of people who have been cosmically conscious, and there was about 20 of them. It's a very limited research, but the point is, like you may have heard the term, many are chosen, but, well, actually, of course, it's not that many are chosen, but few enter, that whole thing. It's everyone's chosen, but few choose. Everybody's chosen, but few choose. At the moment that you're on your knees there, as the picture represents, and you say, I want to know God, I want to know truth, I want to know reality. That's why I love science, because science is the quest for truth. Mysticism is the quest for truth. Hypnotherapy can be utilized as a profession to play with these things, and not just play, but like seriously in a professional practice, work with your clients to set them free. So before I go back to full screen, I really want to make the point: the human being can be liberated in this lifetime now. Right now, not everybody is ready for that or aware of that or caring about that at all. But you will have clients, I know a lot of our students are in that place, especially my Sunday night students, like for sure, you're on, so onlinemonastery.com to learn more about the Sunday night classes. If you're on a deep spiritual path, you're going home. And how quickly you go home is very much up to you. In Zen practice, there's a story where the student goes to the master, says, "Master, I want total enlightenment." The master says, "Okay, good. With hard work, it'll take 10 years. 10 years? I don't have 10 years. Well, it'll take you 20 years. 20 years? I'm not even going to bother to start. I don't have 20 years. Well, it'll take you 30 years. You're eventually going to go back home. But again, home doesn't mean bodily death, so please understand that. So you're eventually going to experience the reality of who you truly are. And again, I want this model in place before we start talking about past life regression and past life regression therapy. So you can, within 10 years of intense spiritual practice and working through your stuff, so with hypnotherapy, really good hypnotherapy and really solid spiritual practice, the human birth is very precious. A human being who's self-conscious, who's saying, "Who am I?" who's on a spiritual path, there's opportunity to experience everything on that involutionary journey in your lifetime now. Out-of-body experiences, mystical experiences, cosmic consciousness experiences, super consciousness. There's so much to experience. It's so amazing when you stop being a human. I live on the top of a mountain, and I don't go down much at all anymore. Only really not much. I kind of say, I'm like, oh, the human beings are down there. And I'm always here to be of service. I feel like I'm here to be of service. Yet I don't really feel like I'm a human being anymore. Those of you who know me, I don't feel like that. I know I'm not a body. And the being I know myself to be, if anything, I identify more with angel. Not as an ego trip, though there's some ego there, of course. But I know myself as a winged being of light. Oh, there it is. I'm not this body. I'm not a human being. If you identify with the body, you think you're human. You're not human. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that quote is true. On some level, you know that's true. You're not a human being who has spiritual experiences. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. But now, what I'm encouraging in this talk, start to know yourself as a spiritual being who's having spiritual experiences. You're not a body. You're not a human being. You're not gas, metal, vegetable. Here's my favorite poem from Rumi on the transmigration topic. He says, "I died as mineral and rose to plant. I died as plant and rose to animal. I died as animal and rose to man. Why should I fear? When was I ever made less by dying? Yet once more I shall die to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood too I must pass on. All except God doth perish. Oh, let me not exist, for in non-existence proclaims in organ tones, to him we shall return." That poem is the entire discussion we just had. And so the end it says, "Oh, let me not exist, in non-existence proclaiming in organ tones, to him we shall return." Meaning like you as spirit are going back to God. Like that's how it goes. So does it mean that you're annihilated and you cease to exist? In the deep Sufi, Rumi is a Sufi. In Sufism, the term is fana, or fana al-fila. That refers to complete annihilation. So that's kind of scary, right? In Buddhism, the Saint Nagarjuna, he was asked, you talk about non-being. And he's like, that doesn't sound very appealing. And Nagarjuna said, when I experienced non-being, it was not non-being, it was wondrous being. The beauty of the spiritual path is when you're done, you keep your mind. You stay as the individualized essence. And because you're conscious, you can choose what form you want to play. You can choose what story you want to have. So here's what I'm going to say before we go back to the camera, because I think we got this chart covered now. All the past life stories we're going to talk about are stories. You're doing that. You're choosing your stories. right? You're going in these journeys. Most of them are useless journeys, according to A Course in Miracles. You have lots of useless journeys, wasting time, just causing more suffering, creating more karma. And that's what a lot of the past lives that we work with our clients are. I think we can go back to full screen now. I think you got the whole idea. We'll continue in that theme. Okay, feel free to use the chat pod. Somebody raised their hand before. I can't do anything about that. But if you want me to interact with you, just type any question or whatever you'd like in the chat pod. Respectfully, and we never have disrespect, but I'll just say respectfully, of course. All right, so looking at the chart actually helped me to keep my mind focused on all this stuff because there's so many things to share. So now here we are, we're doing the human experience thing, and we're very caught up in believing that we're this individual, separate self. But in this note, so I was talking about stories, right? You create your own stories. In A Course in Miracles, it teaches, I'm not the victim of the world I see, I'm inventing the world I see. And nothing happens to me that I'm not somehow asking for on some level. Right? So consciousness is creating its own story. It's like choose your own journey. But in evolution, it was a choice to start your incarnation process, but because we all know, and this is what past life regression teaches us, that it is choice. You are choosing your lifetimes. But is gas choosing its lifetime? No, it's just in default now, part of the evolutionary process. Do animals choose their next life? Not really. It's just a default of the samskaric patterns unfolding. That's its karma, but it is evolving. Most humans aren't choosing their stories. They're unconsciously creating their lives, right? Those who know about creating manifesting techniques and creative visualization stuff, before you know about that stuff, you usually are unconsciously creating your life. Somebody said to me recently in one of our classes, I'm moving from chaos to true manifestation. And I said, actually, you're manifesting all the time. You were manifesting chaos. Now you can start manifesting, peace and harmony and abundance and love and joy and everything good. So you're creating now, you are empowered enough, those who are still be listening to me, you're empowered enough to create your own story, to create your next story. Here's the deeper advice though, stop creating stories. If you want that 10-year, in this lifetime journey back to source, stop creating more stories. Stop going on more useless journeys. So now we're going to talk about, I want to get us started in past life regression therapy because that's what the class is entitled. And then I'll go to the chat pod. So in hypnotherapy, we're obviously doing past life regression therapy. It's fascinating when you're looking at all these lifetimes. I personally look at 14 of my past lives. I've looked at each one about 5 times. I cannot say that they're all real from historical proof. I haven't ever tried, or I don't think I'd be able to prove that these existed. There are cases of proven past life regressions, but I'll tell you, my personal take from tens, thousands upon thousands of clients. I think some are real. I definitely think some of those stories are not at all just made up by the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is the seat of your imagination. It's the seat of your memories. It's the seat of your emotions. So if you have a powerful story come out of a person and it is filled with belief systems, emotions, lots of information about, let's say, a certain city and life a person had, that is not a guarantee just because you heard a whole story come out of a person that they actually live that story. Your subconscious, your dreams at night, you don't regress into a dream and say, hey, that was my past life. It was a dream. It was something confabulated. I won't define that term now, but it was something confabulated by your subconscious mind. I believe a lot of the past life regressions that we do are confabulations of the subconscious mind, which are relevant to the client now. So either way, the story that came up, the metaphor that came out of them is relevant now. But I have seen enough past life regressions and studied this enough, and there's enough research out there to say, yep, we're probably, look at what I just explained, we're probably reincarnating, right? I think it's an extremely plausible theory. There's enough data. You can do the research of Dr. Ian Stevenson. He was, I don't know if he's still doing it, maybe he passed away. This was a little while ago. He was researching children, primarily in India, who claimed to be able to remember their past lives. And one story is a young boy, younger than 10, whose ear is deformed, but he has past life memories of being shot in the head with a shotgun, and that's how he died. And he was born with the deformed ear, which totally supports everything we said here. So before I explain more of Dr. Stevenson's work, let's use that story to understand sanskars and how we use these techniques to heal our clients. When that boy when that soul in that past life in a different body got shot in the head, there was a huge mental impression, right? Consciousness was right there, and all of a sudden, the body died instantly, but the consciousness was aware of a huge blast to the head. What happens at bodily death, we kind of know this from many different sources, again, not scientific proof, but from past life regression, like between life regression, channeling is one data point. But again, research like Dr. Stevenson, when consciousness leaves the body, it doesn't just leave as pure consciousness, it takes its sanskars with it. If there's one point to get out of the whole class tonight, it's exactly that. When consciousness leaves the body at the time we call bodily death, it takes its sanskars with it. When you leave your body, your mind goes with you. Right? It's not like your mind and brain are not the same thing. Your brain is a tool of your mind, but it's not your mind. So consciousness, which is spirit, has mind. That goes with it when you leave the body. And out-of-body experiences. When I leave my body, I consciously, voluntarily leave my body when I want to. And I can tell you, my mind goes with me. I don't take my brain with me. Somebody once showed, oh, you don't have a brain when you're out there. I don't have a brain when I'm out of my body. It stayed in the bed. I have a mind when I'm out of the body, for sure. I also have emotions when I'm out of the body. I have memories when I'm out of the body. I can see, I can hear, you can feel, but not physical, obviously, and there's not really much smell and taste. But anyway, most of who I am, except for this body, which is not who I am, so basically all of who I am is still with me when I'm out of the body. So that to me just, again, I astral project. It's not debatable for me. I know I can do that. Therefore, like again, I'm saying, I know myself in my essence to be an angel, and my grandmother, by the way, she was like, darling Matt, you're an angel. So like what can I say? I'm not saying that for any reason, but to teach that I know I'm not this body. And the essence of me, the essence of you really in your, who you are is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and wonderful and pure. And it can never be hurt or cut or wounded or damaged. You're perfect in every way. So like that essence is you. I want you to know that. I don't care who you were 500 years ago. I want you to know yourself as a being of light and love and bliss and peace and truth, who is of service to all beings until they're all free of suffering. That's what matters. So when we're doing the past life regressions, just know that, this idea of sanskar staying with you when you leave your body. Okay, back to Ian Stevenson and that boy. In the past life, the guy gets shot in the head, the soul moves on, but takes that sanskar with it. That sanskar grew his present body. Right? I'm just gonna use the word advanced meditator. I'm a meditator. I think I'm an advanced meditator. I love using my mind to influence my body. So over the past 6 months when the new year started, I'm like, I'm gonna get bigger, I'm gonna work out. I like doing that sometimes. I've done it before. I get up to 200 pounds. I'm getting bulky, and it's like, it's cool. And then my frame doesn't really work that way, and it's not really great for my meditation practice. And now that I'm teaching on a hut meditation Sunday nights, I decided to go more to spiritual type of nutrition again and lose more weight. And I dropped like 7 pounds, like really quickly. I control my body. I do these phenomenal workout routines that feel amazing. So anyway, the whole point is consciousness influences the body, but unconscious beings, people are not aware that they're really aware of who they are. It's by default. Your karma is influencing your life and your body. So when the boy in the Ian Stevenson story, he died, and by the way, he researched like 5,000 plus cases like this. And that's pretty convincing that people reincarnate. Like I'm convinced his work is scientific proof. It's not scientific to the, the standard of most mainstream science, but it's scientific enough to say souls reincarnate. Like that's what's going on. So now the boy, that soul leaves the body, got shot in the head, and then takes on another body eventually. But the consciousness with the sanskars, and that's his karma, by the way, like the sanskars are your karma. That's what playing out. Your past is still staying with you. Karma is like your past is still staying with you. That's why forgiveness is the key, because we're forgiving the past. We're releasing the past. Where when we do a past life regression, I'm not really concerned so much about that past life story. I don't want you to be all proud about who you were back then. Like, I was Napoleon, yay. Like, stop that. And you probably weren't anyway. So it doesn't matter who you were. It matters who you truly are. But what we're doing in these past life regressions is we're freeing people from the illusions that they're still holding from the past. All right, that boy, if my client came in, like we're not going to grow an ear back, right? Maybe not at our current state of evolution, but I think eventually we could. But if you have a client who comes in with pain because in a past life they were shot with an arrow in the shoulder, like I said earlier, then you heal that memory, you clear that memory. Our graduates clearly know how to do that. And then the physical pain goes away. If you have, negative behaviors that come from past lives, like, I don't know, let's say in a past life you were miserable and you were an alcoholic. In this lifetime, you can stop drinking no matter what, and nothing you've done from childhood type therapies have healed that, couldn't get you to stop. We go to the past life, we talk to your past life self, we say, hey, it's done, it's over, you don't have to do that anymore. He's like, oh, okay. Because remember, when a decision is made, the point I really want to get that I lost before, when a decision is made, it stays with you until you decide again. That becomes your karma. If you decide I'll never love again, all your future lifetimes will be lacking love until you choose again. You say, I'm just going to use alcohol to numb all my pain. You will do that until you choose again. But your mind you're so powerful. Free will says the moment you choose again, your life will be different. And that's, again, where true miracles occur. All right. One more thing before I go back to the chat pod and check where we're on time. That's pretty good. There's types of karma we didn't really go into yet. I was considering doing. Oh, I was going to tell you about reasons to do past life regressions, just in case you're new to this. Why would we look at a past life anyway in hypnosis? So we set intentions when we do a regression, like, all right, what is the intention of why we're regressing you today, client? And then you give them a whole list of choices, unless they already know why they want to do it. So options are the past life most affecting you today. That's fascinating, because then you find out, oh, that's why I'm so screwed up in that way. And then we can heal it because we brought it to consciousness. Again, it doesn't matter if the memory is real or not, historical or not. Whatever story unfolds will be a metaphor the subconscious can use to resolve your present day issues. That's what matters, right? We're in the healing business here, to use that word in the deepest metaphysical sense, not the legal sense. So, we're healers in the deepest metaphysical sense. And yeah, we're dedicated to truth, I believe. Yeah, past life regression isn't a truth serum thing. It's a healing modality. Reasons to do a past life regression. The past life most affecting you today. Special talents and abilities. How could, who was it, Beethoven or Mozart, some of these people, these child prodigies. There's a book, I couldn't find it. I believe it's called Finding Mozart. There was someone who did past life regressions, found out that he lived with Mozart, lived with the soul of Mozart over 3 lifetimes, where that person, that soul called Mozart, was learning all about music for 3 lifetimes. And then when that soul is born, like, how could you explain somebody being able to play the piano like that or whatever, composing symphonies at 5 years old? Reincarnation explains that. So you can go back and find out why you're so good at something through past life regression. You can find the most influential spiritual teacher or teacher in your life. A lot of students tend to call me Michael. That's spelled M-Y-C-K-A-L. So the pronunciation isn't quite Michael, but a lot of students tend to want to call me Michael. It happens all the time. They're like, why do I want to call you Michael? I had a girlfriend once. This is way back when. She had 2 children. We were lying in bed, all 4 of us watching TV, watching a movie. And the little girl said something like, well, she called me Michael. I forget what she said, but she clearly called me Michael. And the mother said, why don't you just call Matthew Michael? And she said, oh, he was Michael when we were big, when we used to play together. Like, I met that girl like 3 weeks ago or so. That was like the 3rd time I ever saw that girl. She said he was Michael when we used to play together when we were big. So we started regressing a lot of my students who were calling me Michael, trying to figure out why. And the stories that came out, we did this as, I'm going to say scientifically as possible, and that's not the best use of that term there, but as like not leading the client in any way to try to figure out what that was all about. And students were regressing and saying like, oh yeah, I knew Matthew in a past life as Michael. He was my teacher in a past life as Michael. So I have a lot of that information as well, but I'm not here to talk about me. So that's just to make the point that, yeah, you've existed before and you'll exist for eternity. But again, the question is, what is your future story like, right? And karma is to keep playing out your past story. When we free you from karma, then you can live your dharma. You can live your purpose. You can live your passion. You can become self-realized. So other reasons to do past life regressions, the cause of any present day problem, for sure. Discovering the origins of a relationship. Like, where do you meet your spouse way back when? Couples past life regression is fascinating. We have a good video of this in our school of some dear friends of mine who put into hypnosis. So they're both like husband and wife. They're lying on the floor. We synchronize their minds and their chakras. It's a little process. And then we regress them. And sometimes, not always, but when it works, it's amazing. They're both seeing the exact same lifetime, and they're finishing each other's sentences. Because like she'll be like, yeah, I see you on the other side of the room you're wearing. And he's like, a tuxedo. And she's like, yeah, you have a tuxedo. Or he's like, a blue dress because you were a woman in a past life, whatever. You see that frequently, that, it's not like if you're a man now, you've always been a man. But again, like what I'm encouraging now is choose your own story. Right? You're going to exist forever. So start considering, what are you evolving into? Right? There's a Jewish rabbi, he once said to the group he was lecturing to that I was in, a small group of us, and he said, yes, we're Jewish, and yes, we believe in reincarnation. He was like a Hasidic rabbi, he was a really, really holy guy. And he said, yes, we believe in reincarnation, but only a fool waits until their next life to do what they can do now. I love that quote. I hope you'll use it someday in somebody or yourself. Only a fool waits for their next lifetime to do what they can do now. You'll eventually, know God, source. You'll eventually be self-realized. Again, that might be 30 million years from now, or it could be within this lifetime. It's totally up to you to make those choices about where you want to direct your energy. So you can do another lifetime again. But the way I like to do the past life regression work is free people from the past. Here's a Course in Miracles quote. Miracles free from the past, in the present, to create a different future. That summarizes the whole teaching. Miracles free from the past, in the present, to create a different future. So in summary, and then let's do question answer in chat pod. The training we do, our transpersonal hypnotherapy training, is the last 500 hours of our school. And trust me, you need those first 400 hours to do good hypnotherapy if you're going to get into the transpersonal stuff. So a lot of you get into our school because instituteofhypnotherapy.com. I'll plug the school. If you're seeing this on YouTube, instituteofhypnotherapy.com. If you're interested in this because you like the spiritual stuff, I do too, obviously. And you do, and obviously like I'm very into the spiritual stuff. You need the foundation of good hypnotherapy training, very comprehensive, like 500 plus hours of training. So the first 400 prepares you to do the deeper transpersonal work that we do. So yeah, with that said, let's see what was in the chat pod before and then start to feel free to interact with me now. And we got like a half hour left. So hopefully we'll just make a discussion, question, answer. Somebody said, I do believe in past lives. What I'm confused about is why we would continue on to another journey without clearing ourselves for the next. Perhaps some of these blocks might help you to your journey. It's not necessarily helpful in this life, but it seems to me the bulk of this is about this life. Yes, I am eager to hear some enlightenment on this. I've got plenty to deal with here and now. I believe I came ready for this. Beautiful. All right, here's an idea. You don't remember your past lives because you've got enough to deal with in this lifetime. And honestly, I don't do, like, being really honest with you guys, because when I do these classes, I'm promoting the school. And I want you guys to go through the past life regression training if you haven't done that already. I don't do much past life regression with my clients. Based on what our classmate here said, I'm interested in your present life. This is your present life. Like, here you are, and you've got a childhood, and for a lot of you it sucked, and you're deeply wounded by it. We got to heal that stuff. You're so interested in the spiritual stuff, that's great. I'm not just talking to one person to type now, but our clients are students are so interested in the spiritual stuff, and that's a great excuse not to look at the childhood sexual abuse or how shameful you are about things that happen. So I'm a huge fan of healing your childhood. So here's the thing to help answer this question for our classmate now. All unresolved karma is playing out in your present life anyway. That's how it works. That's exactly what I just described. So all your negative beliefs and emotions from all the past lives carry over. But your question is like, well, why would that carry over? Because you have free will. If you want to believe you're a rock, you'll believe you're a rock forever. In a past life, and maybe that question was asked very early on is better explained after I went through that whole chart. You don't hold on to your junk, your karma, your sanskars as benefit. I mean, in the biggest picture, the biggest picture is beneficial because it allows for the universe and the dissolution of the universe, you going back into source. But there's no benefit to holding on to karma or sanskars. It happens by default. It's just the way consciousness works, right? So a negative memory imprints on your consciousness. It stays with you till it's resolved. It doesn't matter that the body died or not. Nothing is accomplished through bodily death. That's a Course in Miracles line. It's not Matthew opinion. You don't have to believe A Course in Miracles, but I do. I believe it's 100% accurate, honestly. It's the only book I actually believe is 100% accurate, tell you the truth. So when I quote it, I really mean it. And yeah, past life in A Course in Miracles, well, anyway, there goes that thought again. So and on this notion, your journey through time and space, this default mode where you are thinking you are you think you are a body. So yeah, so Course in Miracles said nothing is accomplished through bodily. I got to get the thought. It could be on track. Nothing is accomplished through bodily death. So when the body dies, nothing really changes. I have a very dear friend who's very deeply spiritual. She's kind of like me, just like a recluse, isolated poet, just meditates and does spiritual practice like all day long. So she's a beautiful being. And we were talking one day, we're walking in the woods having these discussions, and I said, it's this body is going to die. When I sit in meditation, I'm in my heart and feel my heart beating. Someday that will stop. That's like really interesting. And I'm like, what do you think at that very moment happened? What changed? She's like, nothing really changes. Again, I was just asking the question, not that I don't have my own, understandings or answers, but the body just drops away and you continue on. When I leave my body, nothing really changes. I'm still me. So the me who I think I am will carry on. One time I used to be called Matt before I changed my name back to my birth name, Matthew. I did that in a monastery, by the way. And thoughts are just going, too many thoughts today. All right, so maybe that'll come back to me. All right, let me see if I can finish answering your question. Okay, yeah, here's what I was gonna say. One of my out-of-body experiences, I was out of my body, I looked down on the bed, and for whatever reason, which I won't try to explain now, I didn't see my body in the bed. It was very disturbing because I knew I was up there, but I didn't know who I really was. It was one of my first out-of-body experiences, but I wasn't in the bed. There was no body in the bed. The bed was there, but there was no physical body in the bed. Like, it's very hard to understand that, so I won't explain why. But I was so scared, I screamed, Matt! And snapped back into my body. That is the answer to the question that was just asked. Why do we carry this stuff over into the next life? When you leave your body, you're still you. Your personality, you think your personality is the body. Your personality is you as spirit. And it's like spirit is manifesting a personality. And that's fine. But it will create your present day body. Like when you look at me, this body, you say, oh, that's Matthew. And Matthew is different than Joe. Like, why? Not just because the bodies look different. I am influencing, I talked about this earlier, I am influencing my body through my beliefs, thoughts, emotions. Your body, oh, here's a deep teaching. Your body is karma. Your body is karma. But when you leave, you take your karma with you. And there's a funny story, the example in Hinduism in India. The Ganges River is the holiest river in India. And if you bathe in it, it supposedly clears all your karma. But I remember one guru, he was joking and he said, yeah, when you bathe, he was in the Indian accent. He's like, yeah, when you bathe in the river, your karma jumps up on the tree. And then when you get back out of the river, your karma jumps back on you. It's like bathing in the river doesn't clear your karma. We as really well-trained hypnotherapists, I don't know if all of our graduates really grasp this, but once you really grasp everything I'm teaching, you are clearing karma. I remember my early days of spiritual practice and personal healing. I went to a healer, and her advertisement says she clears karma. I'm like, well, why not? Like, what a good thing if she's really doing that. I don't know why she advertised it, because when I sat down with her for the session, I said, okay, like, clear my karma. And she goes, oh, I don't know how to do that. Whatever. So I never saw her again. But I'm convinced now, because I dedicated my life to this, we clear karma, because sanskars are karma. We clear sanskars. So to answer this question, why do we carry it over? It's just how it works. It's exactly what I described, right, for the whole class. Consciousness, when it leaves the body, takes its sanskars with it. So whatever's unresolved comes into your next life. By the way, the more you understand sanskars, and I don't do in-depth talks just on this topic, but I have very in-depth training on these topics. And you have, so you need to know this understanding. You have both negative and positive sanskars. And it will explain to the person who asked the question why stuff carries over. In a past life, you have lots of negative sanskars, but they're not resolved. They'll manifest in this present life with those same patterns. That's what your karma is. Sanskars playing out over and over again. You can clear a lot of that stuff through the kind of work we do in hypnotherapy. But what a lot of what hypnotherapists do and neurolinguistic programming practitioners do, especially NLP practitioners, we change negative sanskars to positive ones. Negative thinking to positive thinking, negative visual images to positive visual images. That's good. Keep doing that as a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. Yet, in the deep teachings that we're in now, positive sanskars also are karma and will cause reincarnation. So if you spiritualize your mind and create what's called a spiritual ego, it's okay. It's better than other egos, but it's still ego and it's still sanskar, and it's still going to lead to reincarnation. The great Saint Meher Baba, who gave us that chart, somebody said to him, Meher Baba, do you know that the word good is so close to God, all you have to do is remove the O and you get to know God. And the guy was implying, the student was implying that if you're just super good, you'll know God, because the two are the same. And Meher Baba said, actually he didn't say because he didn't speak, he typed on a letterboard or sign language, he said, you can spend your entire, and it was like a stern answer, you can spend your entire life trying to remove that O and you will never know God. It's such a powerful teaching, and I want to share that because I have the opportunity to here. Positive sanskaring your mind, making only positive images in your mind, PMA, positive mental attitude. That's great. It's better than negative mental attitude. But in enlightenment, it's so important to understand, no sanskars are allowed. An enlightened being doesn't have sanskars. So you have this lifetime to clear all your sanskars. If not, these teachings, the karmic reincarnation teachings, say you'll do it in your next lifetime. And you'll keep doing it until you are clear of all sanskars. How you get clear of all sanskars is not the topic tonight, but those teachings exist in all of my work. So if you just read my books, go through our schools training, the Anahat meditation system, we are unwinding sanskars. And the reason why I am glad to have this opportunity, I don't want our graduates to be so consumed with past life regression and creating positive images in people's minds that you're just keeping people in a karmic loop. So to answer the question, then we'll move on. It's such a good question. Right? Why is all this past life stuff carrying over? Is there benefit to it? No, it's just the way the default process of evolution happens. But once you make the choice to get free, only a fool waits to their next lifetime to do what they can do now. Again, most spiritual paths, very actively engaged, are about 10 years to unfold who you are. And then you're not done. It does keep getting better and better because that's what God is. God is ever new joy. It does keep getting better and better. And you're never done unfolding who you are. I tried last night in our Sunday class to explain what my Saturday night meditation was like, and there were no words for it. But I think I can allude to it a tiny bit here to say, the being that I know myself to be inside, who I really am, is just like you, but like I'm becoming very, very, very aware of the essence of my being through intense meditation practice. It's absolutely glorious. And I'm not necessarily we're already created. So by the way, in this model, Course in Miracles model, but it supports everything and all these other models. It says, you're not your own creator, right? God created you. And all your sanskars technically are kind of like how you think you created yourself. And the real word for that is make-believe. You made stuff up. God creates, your ego makes stuff up. I was going to say your ego makes shit up, but I won't say that. So your ego makes shit up. And now those are all your sanskars. But you're already created as God created you. And that's, again, creationism is part of this model. You are perfect, whole, and complete as God created you. As you remember that more and more in meditation or utilize hypnotherapy to help your clients to realize who they truly are, it's not guided imagery. It's not positive imagery. The self I know myself to be in meditation, which is just more just, like the self I know myself to be. It's not like just only in, 10 minutes of sitting on the cushions. Like the being I am, the being you are, is a child of God. And that's not a body. You're not a body. You're a spirit. So there's no purpose of having sanskars, except in the biggest picture, sanskars are required for creation, let me not use the word creation. That's wrong. Sanskars are required for evolution, not for creation. Yet, you couldn't have this whole evolutionary journey without consciousness accumulating sanskars. Once you realize in the human birth, it's time to get free, then you clear all your sanskars, which include all childhood memories, all your present life memories, and all your past life memories. You don't usually see your past life memories until you've cleared enough of the present life memories. Buddha, when he was enlightened, or during his enlightenment process would be more accurate to say, saw all of his past lives. He remembered back to being a tree. He told stories about being a tree, being a bird. I forget some of the other creatures that he was, but he was clearly talking about transmigration from his memories of who he was. That's, pure Buddhism. That's like right there in the Buddhist teachings to support everything I'm saying tonight as well. When like one of the greatest enlightenment experiences that ever occurred with Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha under the Bo tree, part of that realization was knowing who he truly is, and that did mean he saw his past lives. So my experience personally has been, I didn't honestly have that much childhood stuff. I had a really nice, pretty relatively easy childhood compared to a lot of people. So that was pretty easy to clear in hypnotherapy. And then the past lives started coming up. And again, 14 of them, and some of them were horribly traumatic and painful and disturbing. And then I started clearing all of those. And now I don't look at any of those. I don't do childhood regressions personally. I don't do past life regressions anymore. I'm not against it. But when you clear the sanskar, it's gone. You only have a limited number of sanskars. If you do intense inner work, meditation and hypnotherapy, and this is why I do hypnotherapy, because it clears sanskars if done properly. Most of it's done improperly, only in the sense that it doesn't clear sanskars. A lot of hypnotherapy is done really well, of course, but it just creates positive sanskars. Enlightenment is about clearing all sanskars. And we can do that through childhood regression to look at the stuff that's carrying over. But why would we look at past lives? Because some of those sanskars are still there and they're still carrying over. I have 2 lifetimes as women, the other 12, as I remember, are men. But like every memory, like I remember living in India and wearing all white and teaching. That was a pleasant, positive life. It was beautiful. But there's still that memory carrying over. But like the person I am, I'm obviously into Eastern mysticism, the religions of India, meditation. That's part of my sanskar pattern. You might say part of my karmic pattern. But it's such a clear part of my karmic pattern. It's no big deal. I'm not trying to relive that life. I lived in India. I did in this lifetime. I lived in India, but I lived in the Himalayas, but I'm not trying to, that I did for a while, because that karma was strong for me. I was trying to get back there and live there. And again, I did, but now that's clear. Been there, done that. Right? So I don't need to go back to that past life again or go back and live in the Himalayas again like I did in 2003 or something. Just because, again, that becomes the past. So I hope that helps, and I hope my personal stories help. I'm only using them for teaching's sake. All right, next in the chat pod said, could you please make this picture available to download? Just Google Images, Meher Baba, M-E-H-E-R, B-A-B-A, and then just type in transmigration. That's what I did today. I found that better. The PDF I have there is a copy I made out of my book, of Meher Baba's God Speaks book. And then I just put that PDF here to show you. But right before class started, to find it, I just Googled Meher Baba transmigration, and then you can see it. Someone said screen is dark. God, I hope
These are the top results.
Sorry. What did she give us? Yeah, okay. Google was listening. That's so creepy, and gave me the top results for the Meher Baba search. All right. Somebody said the screen is dark. I sure hope you guys saw everything you needed to. Someone says sans cars. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. How do you spell sanskar? S-A-N-S-K-A-R. That's because I lived in India and I studied with a really great teacher, a set of teachers, a guru and a lot of other masters, honestly. And they taught me more about Sanskrit and how to pronounce it properly. So in the West, a lot of the words are transliterated poorly. So if you try to Google this term and learn more about it, you're going to probably find, even in Meher Baba's writings, you're going to find it spelled S-A-N or S-A-M. Sanskrit is so interesting like that. The N or the M could be mistransliterated or translated. So anyway, it's S-A-N-S-K-A-R-A-S, sanskaras, or Sam, S-A-M, skaras. That's how when I first started, it was taught as sanskaras or samskaras, you would say. And then as I learned more and more and more, especially in India, it was like very clear pronunciation as sanskar. But you'll probably find it in Google search through samskaras. All right, and again, a plural on the end, as far as I understand, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, the S is not necessary, it's not in. The plural at the end doesn't exist in Sanskrit. So the word would be sanskar, and then plural is understood by the context. Okay, somebody said, so interesting. I call you Michael too, and I have been trying to figure out why. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you to go back and look at a past life where I was that, because you'll find it if you look, and you might be making it up. But yeah, that happens so often. It's like people are like, why do I keep calling you that? I'm like, oh, not surprised. There's another one. So that's nice. Somebody said, what are your thoughts about souls reincarnating again back amongst a certain group, soul groups? Yeah, of course. That just ties into everything we've been talking about here. It's sanskars. It's, again, like, that's why I was so honored to be able to share with you the sanskar teaching, because it explains everything. and your sanskars are, I'll get to this question in a sec, your sanskars are your blocks now, your emotional blocks. You know, your buttons that people can push, right? All the stuff in your heart, all your negative emotions, and, oh, I'm pushing my buttons, that made me angry. All of your triggers are your sanskars. When you get triggered, a sanskar got flared up. Your sanskars are memories filled with beliefs and emotions, and your mind works with an associative mechanism. So if somebody is wearing a red bow tie, but when you were 5 years old, somebody, sorry for this example, somebody molested you with a red bow tie, you hate red bow ties. You hate that guy who has the red bow tie, and you don't even know why. That's your sanskar being triggered. So every time you get triggered, every time your buttons get pushed, every time you're upset, any upset, now it's okay to have emotions. Humans have emotions. It's no big deal. But when you're upset and you're really holding on to it, it bothers you for days, weeks, months, years, lifetimes, those are your sanskars. So I have lots of teachings, and this is what hypnotherapy for me is all about, clearing those blocks, clearing the sanskars. Okay, so families, soul groups, people who keep doing the same thing over and over and again together, have karma. Now, even if you have a soul group who made very conscious choices to come back and do great work together, it's still karma in a sense. It was a choice made in the past that's playing out now. But most soul groups are just like schools of fish or flocks of geese. A flock of geese is a soul group, right? Those, the sanskars, think about all those beautiful geese that fly in a delta formation in the V shape. They're all together and they're all aware of each other. When one of those bodies die, the sanskar is still goose, right? Like, that goose only has goose sanskars, and is not going to reincarnate that much different than goose. But all of those souls, so here's how it works. If I say, I'll talk about like my family structure, which is honestly not how I identify myself. It's who I really am, obviously. But if I say, my name is Matthew Brownstein, my mother's name this, my father's name this is my sister, these are my grandparents, these people are mine. Right? That's the trap. That's what ego does. This is mine. And I'm going to stay with them forever. And, these are my kids and this is my family. When you hold those kind of thoughts, all this stuff is mine. In Buddhism, you hear Buddha often use the word clinging. In Sanskrit, the term is, whatever. I'm going to get it. Ragdway. Rag klesh. Rag klesh is this clinging that causes suffering. And a lot of family systems have that. So, I think it's safe to say this, that in most soul groups, they are clinging to each other, saying you're mine. We have all these sanskars of memories of each other. And you're just playing these stories out over lifetimes together, right? It's okay, family's beautiful, yet in the bigger enlightenment picture, we're all family. In A Course in Miracles, it has the idea of special relationships and holy relationships. Let's just say the saint, somebody who's like super along in the path, doesn't deal with special relationships anymore. Everything is a holy relationship. Every relationship is a holy relationship. Christ, only holy relationships in those stories. Mayor Baba, and study his life, which is such a worthwhile study. By the way, I've mentioned him a few times. Go look at his picture. Just look at his face. That's all you have to do is look at Mayor Baba's face, and you'll be blessed. But go and study his life. It's phenomenal. He was silent for the majority of his life. He never spoke. Like he did for the first 13 years. His enlightenment process is definitely worth studying. He was just a young boy, and he didn't know who he was. He was 13, and a great saint, Hazrat Babajan, woman saint, she saw this boy and she could see who he really was, She threw a rock, hit him in the forehead. He passed out for 5 years in the state called Samadhi. And most of us take 5 to 10 years to learn how to get into Samadhi. The story is it took Mayor Baba 5 years to get out of Samadhi. He was so drunk on God. It took 5 different saints to help him to know who he really was, to get him out of samadhi. And he's one of the greatest beings ever walked on the planet. So I would recommend checking him out, Meher Baba, Meherbaba. So, soul groups, yeah. So I believe in them, of course. It supports the Sanskar model. It supports the whole family dynamic model and how we as hypnotherapists can clear people from all their family karmic junk. You do want to move away from special relationships where you say, this person is mine, to holy relationships. It doesn't mean you won't be married. It doesn't mean you won't have your children and your whole life will stay intact. But in A Course in Miracles, it teaches relationships were never meant for that. This idea that one person is all, and so this goes to the soulmate topic, which we don't have time to get into unless you ask and you want me to. But I'm looking at the clock as far as covering all the other questions that are there now. So in the idea of soulmates, to say that one soul is your soul, that's your special other person, it's okay. I could be wrong. I'm just saying, as I've evolved my thoughts over the years and understandings, there's no one soul who is yours for eternity. In A Course in Miracles, the collective Christ consciousness is called the sonship, and we're all children of God. It doesn't mean you can't go on a journey with one other soul for a whole lifetime. Like, stay with your spouse for the rest of your life. But you can still turn it into a holy relationship. So that's the model, that all relationships need to be turned into holy relationships. And the means to do that is forgiveness, because the means of the atonement is forgiveness. That's really deep stuff. I like to do Course in Miracles classes sometime. I'm just at my limit of how much I can teach right now, and I'm pushing that as hard as I can during COVID times. Okay, so somebody said, so thank you for those questions. Somebody said, so we keep coming back to be with the same people to learn the lesson we need. That's, I'm glad you asked it that way. I'll read it again because the words are really worth nitpicking, if you will, and I will. So she said, we keep coming back to be with the same people to learn the lesson we need. The reason I'm nitpicking the words is to look at the word lesson. There's a belief, and it's common, it's very common, that you're here to learn. You're not. In everything I just explained tonight, it's not about lessons. In Conversation with God, this is best exemplified in the dialogue where Neil Donald Walsh says to God, you don't have to believe it's God, but if you study those materials, I've studied all of his books, and I believe he's clearly talking to wisdom higher than himself, and that voice just claims to be God, so I'm going to call it for what it is. He said, God, we're here on earth to learn lessons, right? And God said, nope. And I love when I teach this, I always say the same thing. God didn't say no. It was like God was being cute. God was like, nope. And they're like, well, and he said it again. He goes, well, what do you mean? I mean, everybody teaches we're here to learn lessons. Nope. The answer again came, nope. And he said, well, what is it then? And the answer that came back, which is only part of the whole equation that we covered tonight, is you're here to reinvent yourself in the highest way you can possibly conceive of. That's what I've been talking about all night. Not preoccupation with the past, but reinventing yourself in the most glorious way you can imagine, right? Be a saint, be an angel, be an enlightened being. That's the story I'm choosing to create now. I have no other desire to do anything else. I want my whole life to be of service to God, to humanity, and to all beings. I don't want any more useless journeys, no more wasted lifetimes. That's why I'm here. I'll do my mission and I will go. The idea of lessons, you're not here to learn anything. And to use the models we talked about tonight, you're here because you're caught up. Well, you chose to incarnate. You wanted to experience what it was like to do the whole, not just human thing, to do the incarnation thing, which is all those forms. So you wanted to do that, and God said, okay, go ahead. But nobody said you're going to learn anything. Here's why. And this is in Conversation with God, and it's definitely Course in Miracles. So I just believe this is a very true understanding. When God created you, you were given and told everything you needed to know. Nothing was withheld. Learning implies lack. I'm not teaching you anything you don't know. I'm saying you're a spiritual being. You already know that. I'm saying you can get free of karma. You already know that. I'm saying, part of you knows when something is true or not true, because you already know it's true. It's so important to understand that. You already know it's true, so there's nothing to learn. Anything, and if anything, removing sanskars, which is what you're here to do, is an unlearning process. Right now, if you're making the choice to get free, you're unwinding sanskars. Meher Baba gives some good explanations of ways to do that. But again, I'm teaching all that through our school, the hypnotherapy school. Let me just keep looking at the question. It helps me to stay focused. As far as the lesson, you were created with everything you needed to know. Nothing is lacking. You're perfect, whole, and complete. everybody I work with, clients, students, when they say, I'm incomplete, I'm imperfect, I'm broken, I say, all right, what's the truth? And they go, well, I'm perfect, whole, and complete. And yes, you are. And everybody agrees with me on that. You can't be perfect, whole, and complete and still need to learn something, actually. I'm not saying don't study and all that. In the deepest sense of spirituality, there's nothing to learn. You're just unwinding sanskars and then remembering who you really are. And then once you realize your pure potentiality, you just recreate yourself in the most glorious ways that you can imagine, right? So like I was trying to explain last night in Sunday class and tonight, what happened to me in my meditation on Saturday night. It was a really profound shift, actually. And I know like that being that was so profound in that meditation, which again, not just past tense, that beingness is created by God and doesn't have to learn anything. But I, as that being, can recreate myself any way I want to. But I'm wise enough now, if I can humbly say that, to say, I know to choose love. I know to choose peace. I know to choose bliss. I know to choose prosperity. I don't have to learn that. I know that. You do too. Everybody knows that. They're just making silly choices, right? Why would you choose poverty over abundance? Why would you choose sickness over health? But people do. So you don't have to learn to be healthy instead of sick. You just have to make the choice. So you're recreating yourself in the most glorious ways possible. So the question was, we keep coming back to be with the same people to learn the lesson we need. You keep coming back with the same people because you still have karma with them. You still have sanskars. You still have unforgiveness with them. You might have a mission with them. That's another topic. But in the sanskara karmic model, there's unforgiveness. There's unresolved issues. When we do hypnotherapy, we are, especially interpersonal hypnotherapy, the essence of interpersonal hypnotherapy is what we're talking about right now. Clear sanskars in relationships, because interpersonal, miracles are interpersonal, and we perform miracles. They are interpersonal, although that's a deep teaching, but it's always rooted in forgiveness. So when you're angry with your mom, karma. Forgive your mom, not just by using the word forgiveness. It's a very deep process. It's an elaborate process. It's not as simple as people think. I have students frequently, clients, say, but I did a session with my mom. Shouldn't it be all forgiven? I already forgave her. I bet you 90% of you have those thoughts. I hear it so often. It's not a one session thing. It's a very elaborate, forgiveness is really worth studying A Course in Miracles for decades. If you study A Course in Miracles for 10 years before you probably start grasping what that word forgiveness really means. So you keep coming back with them until you forgive and release and resolve the karma and move on. In the end, you get what you want. So you're angry with them, you want to get vengeance, all right, they'll be in your next lifetime so you can get vengeance. I'll tell you an interesting story. I know we're running over, so you guys can just log off anytime you want, of course. I had a client, she had a lot of repressed memories of childhood sexual abuse. We didn't know that, but we started doing uncovering work, and her father had molested her, her brother had molested her, and her uncle had molested her. We unfolded this over on a period of 6 sessions or so. And then I said, that can't be an accident. And she was spiritually minded. I said, why don't we look at the karmic pattern here? Why are these people in your life over and over again? And especially, why are men treating you this way? In the bigger picture. It's not to say that men need to take a lot of responsibility too, for God's sakes. I want to scream that to every person who molests a child, because I see it so often. It's starting to really get to me to where I want to create a movement like Black Lives Matter. Well, women and child lives matter, stop as well. So stop molesting children, please. Anyway, when we regressed her to her past life, of why this all happened for her. And again, there's the whole victim discussion, which I don't want to get into now, but in the past life, she believed herself to be, and she was a man in a past life. The belief system and that man in the past life was raping other women. So we process the lifetime about what is the thought process, because it's the thought process which is the karma. The belief system that was in play, the karma which was in action, was women deserve to be treated that way. As a man, he believed women deserve to be treated that way. So he treated women like that, because that's karma, action. Karma is action. Belief system is an action. Then that body died, the soul moved on. It doesn't have to learn to treat others with love, kindness, and respect. It already knows that. But in its ignorance, in its forgetting process, in its amnesia, it took on a wrong belief, a miscreation, a wrong thought. Wrong thoughts are miscreations. It's misusing your mind. And when you say women deserve to be treated like that, this is what we call balancing karma. And I don't have time tonight. We've discussed in our school to discuss different types of karma. So, and karma is just karma, but there's different ways of looking at different ways it plays out. So balancing karma is when the soul has a thought, but then reincarnates with the same thought, but kind of on the flip side of the equation. So if you were a rapist, you'll be the one raped. That's how the idea of balancing karma works. It's not a punishment system. It's a cause and effect system. Karma is cause and effect. If you believe women deserve to be treated that way, you will just keep playing that out in all forms. Yeah, because if, this woman didn't see me for hypnotherapy and kept that belief in place, she would have eventually died in this lifetime. If she didn't resolve that belief, she would have played it out again in another life as a man or a woman or whatever, in whatever dimension. But that thought will not go away. That decision will not be canceled out or changed until she changes her mind. So we changed that, obviously, right? We're like, no, you deserve to be treated with love, kindness, and respect, and so does every other child of God. So does every other man and woman. Once that soul got that, now the karma is broken. Now she doesn't have to keep playing that out anymore. So that was a great example to me about, so yeah, keep coming back, people over and over again, lessons to learn. Nice. Okay, I think we covered that one. There's a few more and we're running over. So somebody said, my intention, I love this one. I'm glad we're talking about it. I think I know what you're saying. Let me read it though. My intention is not incarnate back on this planet. Is there a high probability that I won't? No, you're coming back. I don't know. I don't know you. Sorry. Maybe I know you. Oh, I only see your first name. So I don't get to meet, honestly, most of our students. Nobody can assess that, but let's talk about that generally, which is all I could do anyway, right? So the question again is, my intention is not to come back here, because it sucks here, right? So is there a high probability I won't? Well, let's just talk about so by the way, usually when someone's asking that question, if there is such a thing, let me just say this, it's such a good topic right now. There's something called the Bodhisattva vow. I did a class on it when we started these classes up again when COVID came about. It was my first class because I said, COVID-19, global pandemic, time for the Bodhisattvas to step into action. I would consider myself to be one of those. It's a vow you take. If you take the vow, you're a Bodhisattva. So I've taken the vow. It says, sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Wherever spirit wants me is where I'm going to be. Here's a nice little story from there's a female saint out of India. I forget the name. She said, it was like a prayer. She said, God, if I ask you to keep me out of hell, throw me in it. If I ask you for heaven, keep me out of it. But when I ask to see your face, you must show it to me. And then I'm going to segue that into Elie, I don't pronounce his name right, Elie Wiesel, who was a Holocaust survivor who wrote the book Night. When he saw a young boy being hung in the gallows, hung in a noose, by a noose, a friend of his said to him, look at where's your God now, while this boy is being hung from the noose. And he said, that's my God now hanging from that noose. All right, and I'm almost moved to tears when I say it. I'm serious. I'm I don't want to say dead serious, but I really mean when you see someone suffering and you understand what's going on, everything is God. This model that we just described tonight says everything is spirit. Everything is God. God is spirit. Everything is spirit. So that being right there is suffering. When you say, I don't want to ever reincarnate again, I don't want to ever be here again. So that thing about seeing God's face, not heaven, not hell, but God, you ask to know God. You decide, God, I just want you. So to be done with lifetimes, to not be in karmic cycles where you have to come back, you seek God, you seek the highest, whatever you want to call it, but you seek the highest spirituality, you go right to your source, both eyes on God, and you never look back, you just keep going. But this is how Buddhism evolved from the Hinayana tradition to the Mahayana. Hinayana are just find enlightenment and go home. Just, just get out of here and go home. I have a story in that, but anyway, so Hinayana is just like reach nirvana, go home. Mahayana, which evolved later, which is more evolved, is where the Bodhisattva vow came from. And it said, there's no such thing as personal salvation. Once you get free, you set others free. That doesn't mean you'll reincarnate back on Earth again, but I'm here. I've chosen a human incarnation. I don't really feel like I really needed to be here. In fact, I remember what happened before. Honestly, we don't talk about this much because it's not really practical. But I know what it's like out of my body in the realms of the astral plane with the soul group that I hang out with by choice, beings who are, it's a brotherhood. I'll just give you that term. I don't talk about this much, but whatever. So we were all sitting around, and again, like, I know these beings. These are like my brothers, and it's mostly brothers. I don't really sense sisters there, but I'm open to all, of course. And it was like, all right, who's going to go down there and share the Anahata teachings? Who's going to go down there and do this? And then it's like one of them slapped me in the back, and I went, and they're like, oh, Matthew, you'll go? I'm like, oh, great. All right, I'll go, because it's a bodhisattva vow. So I'm not a big fan of this theme about, I just want this to be my last lifetime, because once you're spiritually aware enough to know who you truly are, which means you do get to graduate Earth School, you're free enough to realize that there's millions and millions and millions, billions of other people suffering. And if you add all the animals, go look at what's happening in the slaughterhouses. Billions upon billions upon billions and billions and billions of creatures are suffering. Until that stops, we're not done. That's A Course in Miracles. It says, if we go together or we don't go at all. And COVID-19, we're all saying we're all in this together. This is why I'm teaching so much right now. I'm like wearing myself thin. Thin is awesome. It's like, I love being this thin. I love being worn thin, teaching spiritual themes. But yeah, I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore because of the Bodhisattva vow. So those are my thoughts on the theme about not having to reincarnate again. So is there a high probability? I think you could probably assess that working with somebody in hypnotherapy, just how far they are on the spiritual path. In our transpersonal training, I teach stages of spiritual growth and how to assess where a client's at. And if somebody is in the latter stages, yeah, in this lifetime, they probably won't have to reincarnate again. But again, my belief is eventually you're willing to go wherever you're put, wherever spirit would have you be of service. Because to me, the highest spirituality is to be of service. And that's why I do these classes for free. It's promotional for the school, but obviously it's much more than that. Okay, thank you. That's a good one. Next, and again, just stay as long as you want, log off when you guys have to or want to. What are your thoughts of exploring or interpreting a spiritual experience, or best to leave it as having a spirit? I don't understand. There's an example, but let me see if I understand the question. What are your thoughts of exploring or interpreting a spiritual experience, sure, or best to leave it as having a, I get it. So do you try to interpret it or to say, all right, that was a spiritual experience, and let it go? So when I went to India, I had had a lot, and you can read about a lot of these in my book, The Anahata Meditation System. I had had a lot of awe-inspiring, I use the word profound all the time, profound spiritual experiences, not just one, like off the charts, years of out-of-body experience, mystical experiences, angelic visits, flying around fairy worlds out of the body. There are fairies, by the way. So that was my life for many years. And I didn't understand a lot of what I had experienced. Cosmic consciousness, I didn't understand. I mean, I knew what it was. It's when you're experiencing yourself as the size of the universe, that's what it is. That's cosmic consciousness. But I didn't know what the word Sanskrit, I didn't know the Sanskrit word for that. So anyway, my point is to answer this question, and then I'll look at your example. When I went to India, I sat down with one of the masters that I was studying with, and I just said, okay, this is what happened. What do you call that? Tell me how you guys characterize that. And he gave me all the words and explanations. So I think it's valuable to understand spiritual experiences if you have a suitable guide who can help to explain those to you. If you're just doing like hypnotic regression into those memories to try to understand them, I'll tell you one other fun story since we're just doing this now, and I'm not really holding back about kind of more of my journey and who I know myself to be. When I was living in a Zen monastery, I was reflecting on a spiritual experience I had had. It was an experience of leaving my body, ascending up into God consciousness, and merging into the absolute. Honestly, that's what I was contemplating, and I'm not holding back. That I'm not making that up. I'm not saying that for any reason but to teach that one of my out-of-body experiences was definitely the journey back into God beyond the beyond. And but it was, it wasn't long after that I ended up in the monastery, because that kind of shit happens to you when you're going to want to be in a monastery. So I was meditating, and everyone was total silence. But in Zen monasteries, there's like a monitor, somebody who monitors the group, and sometimes that person is allowed in the silence, allowed to speak if they feel inspired. And this is a high-level monastic, somebody who's probably psychic beyond what you can imagine. So while I'm sitting there meditating on what was that light, and what were all the subatomic particles, that's what I call them now, and what was that whole thing? And all of a sudden, out of the silence, I hear, don't think about it, engage your practice. And I was like, holy shit, that person totally knew I was not doing the right thing at that moment. I was trying to grasp what it meant to merge into God again by using my intellect. But he, that monk at that time, was saying to me, I know that was for me at that moment. And again, that was totally telepathic. He said, don't think about it, engage your practice. Meaning, if you want to know God, meditate. Don't think about your past. Move into the present moment now, because God is here now. So that monk was saying, if you want to know God now, meditate on God now. Let me look at what you said. Situation. So same question, we have more to this paragraph. Situation. Having a vivid visit from a death angel and surrounded by many, like a legion of angels, a lot of light followed by pure love, comfort, peace, being taken to a building, wheeled into a sterile white meeting room. Angel message was loving and gentle. We are preparing you for the transition of close person whom we are super connected, karmic bond, question mark. Okay, sure. So as far as, understanding that more, you can use hypnosis. You can do a hypnotic regression into that. It's kind of like a life between life regression where you're talking to spirit guides. Your angels are there and they're here. Spirit guides, whatever you want to call them, everybody has like different flavors of that depending on who you are and what your karmic history is. You might have like Lemurian, Atlantean, Pleiadian, or whatever. Everybody has their flavor, but those beings are there. So when you do a life between life regression, we take somebody through a past life, then bodily death, and then we explore the interlife. But we can really explore that a lot. It's called life between life regression. It's taught in the school. It's not my favorite thing to teach. I like other stuff better, but it's good to learn about for sure. While you're in that space, you can dialogue with your spirit guides. They're not past tense though. Your spirit guides exist now. So you could go into the regression, into that memory, into that, that vision, which is now a memory. All of your past spiritual experiences are memories. So to be preoccupied with them can be a mistake because they're the past. But to utilize that as a place for a gestalt, a dialogue with spirit guides, would be really valuable. And I would ask them those, any question you have, honestly. Yet your final question here is karmic bond. For the sake of time, I'm not going to nitpick the semantics of karmic bond, yet I could just say that's really the best thing to do with this kind of stuff is if you want to explore it more. But they're preparing you whether you know it or not. If you study the works of Robert Monroe, who was no longer in a body, bodily death occurred for Monroe. He is very well known out-of-body experiencer, astral projector. And let me look at your thing again while I'm telling you about Monroe. He was projecting so much, as I've done a whole lot, as I mentioned, so I'm speaking from experience. He was going to these places where they learn. It's like a school, and this is the whole learning topic, so I don't want this to seem like I'm contradicting myself, because it's not a contradiction, but it's like you're in school now, technically, right? You're in a class. So Monroe was in a class out of his body, but he was consciously there. He knew he was out of his body. Most people who were in that classroom were asleep and didn't know they were actually there, but the teacher in that room was working with the students, and the teacher saw Monroe, and he said, "You shouldn't be here like that. You shouldn't consciously be here. You should be asleep. We're training you while you're sleeping. We're doing this on a subconscious level. Remember, your subconscious mind, your whole mind is like an iceberg. Your conscious mind is just the tip sticking out of the water, but there's a mass of the iceberg. I feel it all the time now. It's moving me, and I'm just like, all right, now it's telling me to do this. Now it's telling me to do this. The human body and the Matthew, this like tip of the iceberg, the thing you're seeing, is just a vehicle. And it's being moved by something much bigger. So when you're dealing with your guides, they are preparing you. They are preparing you for your dharma, your purpose, your mission. To answer your question a little bit more, because you asked about someone else, something about this super connected to some close person. In A Course in Miracles, this is a very powerful teaching. It says you're not as evolved as you think. Now it depends on when you read that, but generally it's true for everybody. You're not as evolved as you think. Yet when you've gone through a certain process, a certain stage of growth, which I think it's safe to say you're in now, the person I'm speaking to, it says, when you're ready to take up your calling, and A Course in Miracles would say that's a minister of God, but that's your dharma, whatever your purpose is, a teacher of God, whatever you're going to do in this world where you're a teacher of love, and you know what I'm talking about, the person I'm talking to, of course, right? Like, your path is always about love. It says, so the quote is, when it uses the masculine, so apologies for that. It says, when he is ready, he does not walk alone. He walks with mighty companions by his side. For me, it's Danny Fox, our Tampa lead director instructor, Renee Brent, Renuka Arjun, my staff, my people I do everything with. I got a whole team of people around me, mighty companions who walk by my side. Our marketing team who's helping to get all this information out there, mighty companions who walk by your side. So yeah, when you do your Dharma, you don't do it alone. Because again, Bodhisattva vow, you do it for everybody. We do it for all beings. I'm here to liberate all beings. I don't have another purpose. I'm here to be of service, and service is to liberate beings from suffering. So you have your Dharma too. I'm speaking to everybody now, right? And so there are, I wouldn't call them karmic bonds. I don't feel like I have karmic bonds with my staff, my key team members, and the major people who help me in my world. I have dharmic bonds with them. We've made choices. My whole team, we made a choice to be together to heal the world. And I'll tell you a little secret, because we're going really deep tonight and running over for funsies. When Christ surrounded himself with 12 disciples, that was not a random number. Beings who consciously manifest their Dharma that way do that based on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Christ was doing that. He was in a scene. He knew the tree of life teachings. I can tell you the entire, I've never said this to anybody, the entire, not publicly for sure, the entire corporate structure of Anahat Education Group and everything I do is based on deep Kabbalistic Jewish mystical principles of pulling the 12 around you. So for what that's worth, I will just say, yeah, you will pull people around you who are part of your Dharma, part of your life's mission, and they'll be there. And your students, by the way, are waiting for you too. That's A Course in Miracles teaching. When you go, you don't go alone, and the students you're meant to teach, those you're meant to heal, will be there for you. That's awesome. I'm glad we're doing this. Appreciate that a lot of you are still here, even though we're 2 hours, 20 minutes in. Another question. So let's just keep going. I'm going to take a drink, though. So 1 gallon water bottle, hint, hint. And for me to drink more. All right, so somebody said, can a person know and still take on beliefs that are limiting? You can, but most belief systems are done right without knowing. You're just in default mode. Somebody said you're stupid, you believe you're stupid, that's now your sanskar, and you'll hold on to it forever. Why would you want to conclude you're stupid again? Well, you wouldn't, but there's times when you might want to pretend just for fun, but there's really not much benefit to that. I'm trying to think of any reasonable case. Yeah, I'm not going there to the topic that's coming up, so I'm going to say no. Like, why would you want to take on a limiting belief? Except maybe if you could find a way to have fun with that. That's all I'm going to say. But I don't really see any benefit in the bigger picture. Right? Like when I hear my clients, the beliefs that are structured in their mind are those things I always say: unloved, stupid, bad, worthless, dirty, disgusting, shameful. No benefit to those beliefs whatsoever. The beliefs I hold, which are not beliefs, it's who I am: peace, love, joy, bliss, oneness, child of God, servant of God, minister of God, teacher of God, healer, angel. Those are my beliefs about me. And they serve me and others well, so I hold them, but they're not limiting. So why would they're actually liberating and freeing. So why would I hold other beliefs? Except for funsies. If you can find a way to have fun, great. But yeah, I wouldn't hold on to those things in that way. Somebody said, please consider teaching A Course in Miracles. I think about all the time. It's just if my voice goes, then I can't take our students through our training. So I would love to, though. I am a Course in Miracles teacher. I've been teaching it for over 10 years. I've studied it for over 20 years. So I think you're qualified to teach A Course in Miracles according to A Course in Miracles if you want to. And I want to, but yeah, I don't feel inspired to right now. It just infuses our school and everything I do. But yeah, we don't have that officially. All right, reading down, somebody said that was wonderful. You're speaking my language, nothing real. This Course in Miracles, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Thank you, Matthew. Aloha. Beautiful, thank you. I'm not saying names again, but thank you. And yeah, that was a course. That's how A Course in Miracles begins. And that quote is super valuable. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Great, and then just an appreciation. Somebody said, so thank you. Somebody said, appreciate what you just said as hypnotherapists, and having people come whom I can help will be brought to one another. Yeah, if you want to go into, you guys who don't know much about it, for A Course in Miracles, there's a supplement to the course. The course came out with a 669-page text, a 300-something page workbook for teachers. I'm sorry, a workbook, and then a manual for teachers. Those are the three main parts. But then 2 supplements came about, which are now part of the whole thing. So if you buy the whole course, it's just a book. So you can buy A Course in Miracles book. You can go to support the organization directly. You can go to acim.org and just order the book, Course in Miracles. I do recommend at the beginning of every year that you start the course, if you haven't done it, do the Course in Miracles lessons, 1 lesson per day. 2021 will be glorious for you if you do Course in Miracles lessons through the whole year. So the supplement, one of the supplements in A Course in Miracles is, excuse me, it's called Psychotherapy, Purpose, Process, and Practice. I never claim as hypnotherapists that we're psychotherapists because we have legal issues around that. Yet that manual is amazing for hypnotherapists. And it'll teach you exactly what our classmate just commented on, which is having your clients come to you. There's a 33, I think it's like 33 pages manual, which is sacred number, by the way. So maybe it's not 33, but anyway, 33 is considered in the Masonic tradition a sacred number. And I believe it is. So anyway, for various reasons based on Kabbalistic teachings. So Psychotherapy Manual has a little segment there about the question for payment. And it talks about, should you charge for therapy? And the answer basically is yes. Because it says, no matter how advanced you are as a teacher of God, you still have earthly needs while you're here. But it says you'll be given what you need while you're here, which is so comforting when you get worried about money. It says you'll be given what you need while you're here. I've never not had money. My mission has always been fueled with whatever I needed to do my life's work. You always have money, and you'll always have your students and clients because you are here to fulfill God's plan. And God will send the people to you that you can help, and the ones who can hear your message at the time. Right? Not everybody who's here is willing to hear what I have to say. They don't want to, or they don't believe it, or whatever. But obviously, those of you who are still here, which is the majority of people, still believe this stuff. So yeah, you will attract the right people to you, and the money follows, which is always nice to know. And it follows in abundance if you just open to that. The money will always be there in abundance because you're here with a mission, and the universe will give you what you need to fulfill that mission, and the right people. Great, thank you. Somebody said, so another thank you. Somebody said, can you reincarnate with physical signs of your past life, like scars showing the manner of death? Yes, that's what Dr. Ian, Google Dr. Ian Stevenson. It's spelled S-T-E-V. There's a V for Stevenson. Google Dr. Ian Stevenson, and you will see 5,000 plus documented cases of studying, interviewing children who claim to remember their past lives. But how did he prove that? Largely through the scars and the birth defects on their body, and then researching the past life story. So the kid would say something like, so there's like a big black mole or something there. And they're like, well, where did that come from? So the kid who can remember his past life says, oh, well, that happened when I was, living in this city with these parents, with this name, and somebody, whatever, shot me in the neck. And then they research it, and sure enough, in that city is a family with that name, with historical records of that kid who died shot in the neck, or that person died shot in the neck. So yeah, the scars are carrying over. So your beauty marks, your little moles or whatever, could very well be carrying over from, but I don't know, But the big stuff, yeah, I do believe that's karmic, and it does carry over. Great, awesome. All right. Usually I go as long as possible, but I think we're done. So that was 2.5 hours. Thank you, everybody. We'll do next week for sure. I just don't know what the topic is yet, but I'll write the blog soon. So just, I don't announce them before because I'm trying to stay with the flow of what's happening in the world right now. But every Monday we send a newsletter out, so I hope you guys are all receiving that. That's where we announce these classes and everything else about the school. So the newsletter every Monday is the pulse of the school, the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, and all of my other work. So yeah, that's Monday newsletter. And then please join us on Facebook, Twitter, not LinkedIn because that's my personal one and that's a pain for me, but Twitter, LinkedIn, no, I'm sorry, Twitter and Facebook anyway, and YouTube. We're on YouTube. If you subscribe and befriend us and all that, then you'll be getting all of our social media. We have lots of social media that goes out. I'm never there. So please don't contact me on social media. I'm never there. Our marketing team is there. So anytime you see stuff on the internet about me and social media, it's from a marketing team. But if you want to contact me personally, just reach out to the school if you don't have my email, and you guys are always just welcome to email me freely if you do have my email. So thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure. Have a great night, and I'll see you in a week, or for Sunday night class in 6 weeks, or those of you who are really seeing so much of me in the in-school video or live classes. Thank you all. I'm going to go rest my voice. Have a good night.